Recording. Welcome back to the Tuxes Tomahawks podcast. I'm Adam Dorito, and today I have a very special guest, and we're doing it on Zoom to make sure the Chinese don't hack into our computers. So AG, CEO of the best sandals in the world of Toehold, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you coming on today.
We weren't recording that whole time.
No, I didn't want to. Yeah, yeah, because now
Good,
I gotta go back and
good,
edit all the stuff into there, but it's fun.
good,
It's
good.
good. I'm
No
here
one's
for
gonna
you.
hear all that crazy shit we talked about.
Yeah, the government gets mad when I talk about that, how much they fucked up. Anyway, just to rehash, you guys lost another F-18, you shot down another one, just to keep rolling shit off of carriers and corruption in the government. It's all good stuff.
So with that F-18, were they doing evasive maneuvers and it went overboard, or did they just accidentally push it over the
No,
side?
so apparently, from what I understand, is that I had it on the elevator and they're bringing it up from like the maintenance deck and they were bringing it up on top to the
Yeah,
flight deck, and they didn't have it strapped down all the way. And then there was an inbound missile coming, and the Sea Whiz or whatever didn't take it out, so they had to do last minute evasive action on the carrier, and and it just tipped, and then the whole thing just rolled off the deck right
Jesus,
into the ocean.
Jesus.
There was a great meme posted by the civil affairs guys that I follow, and they were just like, "This is my paint," and it was like the carrier, and like, "This is my brush," and it's like the F-18, and like, "This is my canvas." And it's just the open ocean in the Persian Gulf.
So how long until we completely obliterate the fucking Houthis and the Iranians?
So, this is a good discussion because we talk about this a lot on the Intel side, and it's like we have the capability of taking over every single country over there if we wanted to within 72 hours, but we don't let our dogs off the chains. You know what I mean? If we put the full force of the United States military, every carrier group, every brigade combat team, you bring in the Air Force with all their capabilities and stuff, we could level Kuwait, we could level Oman, we could level Yemen, and all these things, and subject all these people to theocratic rule very quickly if we really wanted to. We just don't, because the United States has this concept of limited warfare still, and we do precision strikes and precision targeting. Yeah, great. Okay, so you're killing one or two guys, and then what they do is they just tell their kids to, have more kids, and then they just repopulate the earth, and then they keep doing this every 5 to 10 years. So unless the United States actually gets serious about eliminating these terrorists and do the Israeli method, so to speak, but even Israel, right? They're smoke checking a lot of dudes in Gaza right now, and it's only like a 5 mile by 5 mile box. But at the end of the day, unless you do complete and total warfare, they're just going to keep coming back and more pissed off. And the thing that sucks is that, like, I was over there when they were building up that stuff before October 7th, like right before them. I was over there when Ukraine got invaded, so we saw a lot of stuff on the high side that's will make you think twice about the Russia-Ukraine stuff if people knew what was really going on. And the disconcerting part is that, like, everyone knew it was coming, and Netanyahu like 100% let it happen because they wanted their own 9/11 to justify turning that place into a parking lot, because that place is a terrorist hotbed. It's a breeding ground for terrorism. Trump wants to revamp it and turn it into a golf course, which is fucking hilarious. I'm all about that. Let's just,
It's so funny.
put a Trump Tower out there, put a swimming pool, because like that, at least from the civil affairs perspective, if you give people food, water, and electricity, those are the three basic things you need to avoid a civil war. And these people don't have that over there. They don't have access to food, water, and electricity. So they do by whatever means possible to obtain those things to stabilize, their kids and their families. So if you build a really nice place for them, like, well, I'm not saying it'll work, but it's a better chance. If you give them infrastructure and a place to live, then they'll less likely sabotage their own house, so to speak. ISIS and all those other guys, they do their own thing. They're like the Joker. They like to throw the fork in the garbage disposal, so to speak.
Oh, wait.
Um,
You think they're gonna let them back into Gaza after they take them out?
oh fuck no, not the
Yeah.
Israelis. No, the Israelis are definitely not going to. That's why the United States would literally have to take control of it and make it like the 51st state or whatever in order to avoid doing that.
I've only had a peripheral overview of it, but if they take all those people out, they're
Mhm.
never, ever coming back. Ever.
Oh no, they're never going to come back. And like, people just don't want to say the quiet part out loud. All right, like the quiet part is this. Oh, this is going to get me in trouble. You know what? Fuck it, I don't care. 50% of the Middle East is inbred. Okay, they have a genetic dysfunction over there that is scientific evidence. There's even studies posted by multiple universities about these things, and that's why they are so prone to violence. Like, it was actually astonishing when I was even the base time when we were outside of Jordan and Syria and those areas, and we had gone back to Kuwait to the main base camp there, you would be surprised at how many disabled kids on crutches or have autism or crooked feet or walking around in wheelchairs and stuff in a nation that has trillions and trillions of dollars, right? And it's because they have this very small-minded mentality of like, we can only breed within these certain tribes. I mean, you've been there. It's
Oh,
like these people just they drive around the Bedouin tribes in their fucking Lambos and their Mercedes all day, and then they crash them into the desert, and then they pull out their generators with their 240-volt string lights, set up their tent village at night. They have a party, they do all their crazy shit, then they pack it all up and then move to the next place the next day because if they don't have a house, the Kuwaiti government can't charge them and they just keep getting paid just to exist and not fuck with the government. So that's how
yeah.
these people live. Like people from the United States like can't understand that that's how these people live in the Middle East until you've actually been there and see like the dead dog bodies everywhere and the dead camels on the side of the road and it
Yeah.
gets nuts.
I've never been over there, but I've had friends that, been through Afghanistan and they were talking about kicking open doors and villages and you would have like just mutant kids, you know what I mean? From
Yeah,
like sleeping with their own children, like a lot of super internal, this is like way back in the tribal regions, but
it still happens though.
yeah, they had kids chained like mutant kids, chained in like the what would be equivalent to like a basement area or like a wine cellar under some of these villages. And there's like, dude, the amount of people that are inbred out there are ridiculous.
And nobody wants to acknowledge that because in America we have, like I said, I had this really fascinating interview yesterday with this guy literally is from Russia and Ukraine and then like immigrated to the United States. He was there during their cultural revolution right after the wall fell and he was all the way there through Boris Yeltsin's election. So his perspective on things was very interesting and I agree with a lot of the things that he said. But it's that most Americans don't understand things 50 miles outside their hometown, right? They're a bunch of Facebook warriors. They're on the internet. They're running their mouth about this stuff all day. But like I've spent time in third world countries. I mean, I even work for an NGO, Developing World Connections, and I go overseas to like some third country shithole in the middle of nowhere every year just to ground myself and salute my toilet when I come home because we have, actual like flushing water in toilets that, and the water's not going to kill me if I drink it, right? Like it's the rest of the world does not live like the United States. And we have so many problems here in the US because we take everything that we have for granted. I mean, the fact that I'm even talking to you on the internet with electricity here and my house isn't getting shot at or somebody's not trying to steal all my shit outside, that's a very unique situation to be in compared to the rest of the developing world, so to speak, right? So you have a fascinating story. So one thing is I want to applaud you because given my people know my background going after rapists and pedophiles in the military, you took it up a notch. You have an interesting background. When you were 18 and you got sent to prison. Please tell me that story about how you went after the pedophiles in prison.
Yeah, so when I was 18, I got caught in a like a police drug raid at a house I was at. It was my
Hell,
uncle's house.
hell yeah.
And I kind of paint the picture. My uncle's sort of like a Steve Jobs sort of guy, kind of like what's that guy's name from Rogan, the one that says he worked at Area 51, Bob
Oh,
Lazar.
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, he was like a guy like that. He really did stuff like that. Okay,
That's
worked for like
sick.
NASA, did the guidance system for the stealth bomber like back before I was born, late 70s, early 80s, whenever that was done.
Yeah.
So really smart engineering mind, but he grew
Hmm.
up in the 60s and the 70s. They smoked weed, they did acid, they're around those like real hippies.
Hmm.
A good way to describe him is picture that guy, Boston George from the movie Blow, right?
Yes.
Looks just like him, acts like him. Like
That's
that's
awesome.
that's my uncle, okay? And he has a huge compound in the hills of Vista, north of San Diego, like Bonsall area. Big avocado groves, acres and acres and acres. So he has multiple properties out there. He has migrant workers work in the field. He has like a little laboratory there. He has all kinds of stuff going on. The guy's partying, guy's smoking weed. They call it refurb. That's how old these fucking guys are.
Smoking the reefer, man.
So I don't live there. I'm just coming by visiting him.
Of course
Stay
you
the
are.
night. The next day, the house gets raided by the cops, right?
Sick.
Wake up in the morning, the SWAT team's there, all that type of stuff. And
Fucking gas canisters going off, windows getting blown out.
that's exactly what they do, flashbang, all that stuff. So they take everybody, they put them in cuffs, and they start asking you, like, what do you know? And when you don't know anything, not only am I, we grew up kind of in the streets, so not only are we not going to say anything if we do, but
Yeah.
we don't know anything to say if you wanted to, like
Right.
they're hanging out with my cousins, my aunts are there, my aunt's there, my uncle, and then there's like 15 other people spread throughout this big property. They take you to jail, and it's really prove yourself innocent, first. And, they take your clothes for DNA, for like drug analysis. They take your fingerprints. They do all that type of stuff, right? They take your blood to see if you have drugs in your system. And then after like a few days in jail, we all bond out, right? And we're overall, you're like, it's going to go away. It's not that big a deal. It's going to go away. Well, they re-raid the house like 5, 6, 7 days later and
Oh, sick. Sounds
re
exactly what cops do.
right? So it turns out, to kind of fast forward, what the police in this particular situation were doing is they were doing like the early days of asset forfeiture.
Mm,
You guys might know that, like, if a cop busts you, for the guys that don't know, if a cop busts you and you have drugs on you and maybe you have 3 grand in cash, it's pretty well that money is drug money, and they're able to take that money, take your car, whatever, stuff like that.
right.
It's not really done that much on the West Coast because there's been so many lawsuits that have happened over the years. But this was the early days. This was like in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So they seized the property, and to kind of fast forward, what had happened was they had undercover informants going in and they were planting stuff around. So my uncle had a small, like maybe 13 marijuana plants, and nowadays marijuana is silly, right? But
Yeah.
back
There's a
then,
guy growing it down the
it was
street
a
from me.
big
He's
deal.
got a whole
Yeah,
fucking
back
field of it.
then it was a big deal. In Vegas, it's like the most legal place in the world now. So, but weed wasn't enough. So they planted a little bit of meth and stuff like that. And then at the very far end of the property, I never seen it. We heard about it, but they had like some canister and some Sudafed. So that was like
Oh, those scumbags.
the bare minimum to constitute like manufacturing methamphetamine. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we had been all over that property. Like, there was nothing like that set up, like his
No.
actual lab was all like a mechanical engineering stuff for making like really high-end components for like satellites and aircraft and stuff like that, right?
Sure.
Anyways, they seize the property, everybody goes to jail. Now we're all on no bail. We're all in jail with no bail. There's like 15 people in jail, right? And you start talking to the old timers in jail, and they're like, bro, you're looking at 16 years, you're looking at 20 years,
God damn.
Take a deal,
And at
bro. Take a
18, that's a
deal.
lot, man. That's a lot of fucking time when you're 18
A lot
years
of
old.
time, yeah. A lot of time. But you think like, well, no, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. But you just keep seeing them fucking people. And like, this guy's getting broke off. This guy's doing 10
Yeah.
years. It's, so you're not very confident in the system, right? So they wound
No.
up making the deal. And it was something like, I think it was back-to-back county years. It'll be done concurrent. You'll be out in like 5 months and 20 days, right?
Sure.
Well, San Diego's real violent. We got in a bunch of fights, stuff like that. Lost all my time. I wound up doing just under 2 years. I turned 19 and 20 in jail. And then Southern California is a pretty violent place. So
Yeah.
if you think of like jail in California, it's way different than the rest of the country. Like
That's what I've
guys on
heard.
the East Coast, fucking Puerto Ricans are fucking each other, and the blacks are fucking, doing all the shit they do. On the West Coast, that's not happening. You're getting your fucking throat cut. If you're a homosexual at all, you're not going to walk the yard with the main guy. So just think about tough dudes and fucking pussies. The pussies all go to protective custody, right?
Yeah.
You want to walk the main line, it's like you'll see in American Me. It's like you'll see in all those prison movies where it's like they're shot callers. It's very militant. It's very much like you just have to fight, riots, all that type of stuff. So when you go to jail, you roll in, and like you would be a white dude. So one of us would walk in and greet you right away and be like, hey, what's your name, Wood? And we'd get your paperwork from you. So you always keep your documents with you,
Uh-huh.
You hear these like wannabe tough guys like that Wes Watson fucking dork, how he's like hooping his paperwork. You can't hit
Yeah.
the yard without your paperwork. You have to
Yeah.
have your paperwork, right? If you don't have your paperwork, you're getting beat the fuck up and you're getting sent out of there because why don't you have your paperwork, right?
Right.
So you'll hand over your paperwork, somebody will check and read through it, and your paperwork is the actual court documents. So it's if you testified against somebody else, what your charges were, it's your full packet of everything that was done. If you were state's evidence, all that type of stuff, right? Who your co-defendants are, all that type of stuff. So we determine real quickly, are you a good guy? Like, can you hang with us? Are you a weirdo? Did you do something fucking questionable? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you can stay, you can stay. Then you start programming with everybody. Like, here's where we do, here's where we shower, here's where we eat, here's you do this, don't talk to this, don't take anything from the blacks, don't talk to the blacks, don't sit with the blacks, don't look at the blacks, don't.
Yeah.
These skin dudes, like we're okay with them right now, but like here's what you can and can't do with them. It's very structured. Everything's very, very structured. And if you break the rules, you're going to be dealt with swiftly and very violently. Very violently.
It's kind of funny because like Americans don't understand this. Like when you take out all of the protections of so-called like normal America, like society divulges into these segregated areas, and this is how like most of the rest of the world works. Like kind of like the way prison works. People will divide themselves out, people will separate things out, and there are rules, and like you must comply, otherwise like you're just gonna fucking die.
Yeah. It works. It's the only way it works in jail. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then um, where we were, they moved us around a lot, but one of the places we were at was right on the Mexican border. So real close to the Mexican border, Otay, East County, San Diego. And a lot of guys there are dudes getting struck out, right? So you're a dude who's done tons of time in prison. You've gone back to the court system and you just got your third strike. You're doing 25 to life.
Yeah.
Obviously not the type of guy that could be around someone who's dealing with a domestic violence or a DUI or like
Right.
maybe you broke a window at the mall, right?
Yeah,
You can
no.
be around those guys. So the guys that are in higher security are in this particular facility that we were at. And then we're circling back to the pedophile, everyone gets their paperwork checked, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's one night, late in the evening, it was on Christmas Eve. And the best way we could chalk it up is like, the senior guards, those guys are off. The junior guards are working the bullshit shifts. They don't want to work. Plus they're working nights or whatever it might be.
Right.
And they rolled this dude in, and we already know who he was because we've seen him on TV. He had raped two little boys.
Yeah, it's gonna go real well for him.
Yeah, yeah. But and you don't know the situation. Like you don't know if he's been combative with the CO, so they're throwing them in there to punish him. I personally believe it was just a clerical error because they're literally moving people around constantly, and it's a
Right.
shuffle, and it's a big pain in the fucking ass. He probably had come from a different facility and he had been brought over to this facility. He was supposed to be separated off into the protective custody yard, but he
Oops.
wasn't. He was put over with us.
Oh no.
So my lawyers are always like, be careful how you fucking tell these stories. I'm like, I don't fuck. Um, so the guy has to be dealt with, right?
Yeah.
And you got to deal with them right away. So there's very strict rules. Like if he rolls in at night and we're like, all right, we're gonna fuck him up in the morning, but in the middle of the night, he fucking pounds on the door and gets out of there. We're responsible because we had access to him and we didn't take that opportunity to deal with him, right?
True
So
American justice right here.
you have to deal with
So
him immediately, right? And it's a super big pecking order, right?
yeah.
It's your reputation is everything in there, right? If you have a reputation of like you're a questionable guy or like maybe you flinch, you're gonna drop down the social, the social pecking order, if you will. You
Hmm.
want to be at the top and stay at the top. As long as you're violent and you're very comfortable with extreme violence and you're willing to fight, you'll be totally fine. Even if you're not that good of a fighter, you'll be fine. Just have a high willingness for violence. And I'd imagine the military is probably the same way, right? Just point your weapon at the bad guy and keep pulling the trigger and don't take a step backwards.
Yeah.
And other guys are going to be like, bro, you might be the shittiest shot, you know what I mean? In the
As long
fuck.
as you're putting rounds down range and keeping heads down, it's fine.
Exactly. So, having not been in that situation, that's probably the way I would may equate it to, right?
Hmm.
So we go in a cell and we just start fucking him up and we get a razor and I stick it in his mouth and I start
Oh
cutting
God.
through
Just
like the top of
geez.
his face through his nose. And it's just like you do if you like skin a deer. You know, like when you cape a deer, like you have to deer, you're gonna be more careful. You have to start kind of like carefully cutting underneath like the
The
skin
deer had it better.
to take the whole cape off. It's sort of like that. And then you get to the point if for those of you guys that are deer hunters, when you get the skin exposed and you see the eye without the skin and you see the whole eye there, has a unique look to it.
Has a unique look.
Has a unique look. Yeah, you only really see that in those types of situations. So we fucked him up really, really bad, cut him up real bad. And then one of the old timers was like, um, he was like, "Hey dog, don't kill him. We got Christmas tomorrow."
Oh, God. Don't
Because
fuck
on
up my
Christmas
Christmas
we get these
presents.
fucking Jolly Ranchers, bro. And if we're locked down, we're gonna get bag lunches.
Oh, motherfucker.
So
Yeah.
the
Don't want to
guy
get the
only
back
really
lunch.
stayed alive. And here's the thing: you can cut a guy's fucking face off, and he's probably not going to die. You know, unless you
Yeah.
cut through his arteries and you start cutting his throat, you can cut this fucking whole face off, and there's not that much. There's blood. There's not that much blood. Not like what you would think. I've
Yeah.
seen a video of somebody blow their face off with a shotgun, and the whole jaw came off. The motherfucker was still alive. Like gruesome, horrible, but just his whole just still alive. You know, very vascular in your face, but unless you get like deep into those arteries, you're gonna stay alive. So
God damn.
they got him out of there. They shook the whole place down. You know, we never got pinched for that. You know, they want to breaking up the leadership of that particular area,
Yeah.
and then just kind of circling us around. And I wound up coming all the way. I get the whole podcast would be the story, but I wound up circling all the way back a few months later after like solitary confinement back to that same unit.
Yeah. I mean, so that's a wild story. Most Americans don't experience that, but it's just like,
You know, the
talk.
crazy thing too is if I'm at a dinner table and somebody tells me to tell that story and I really go into the details of it and you
Yeah.
leave out the pedophile part, you're a fucking psychopath, bro.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But as soon as you tell people it's a pedophile, like moms will like come up and like give you a hug and shit.
No, I mean, I agree. I
Start
mean,
high-fiving you. There's no remorse for fucking pedophiles. No remorse.
no, and
I mean,
and
I should
that's
say no sympathy is the better word. No sympathy for pedophiles.
no, I agree with you. And like that's when I was doing my undercover work, taking down, sexual assaulters and fucking pedophiles at the Air Force Academy and then like, federal service academies in general. That's been going on for several years. Like I kind of wish they went to that prison and got a fucking lesson taught to them. And unfortunately, some of them are currently commissioned officers in the United States military, which is fucking wild to me. And it's the fact that the government goes through such lengths to protect its precious federal service academies and not report these numbers as accurate is insane. And I'm not a huge fan of cops after my experience with them, just like I'm sure you're not after your experiences with
I'm a huge fan of cops. I'm a
yeah, I
huge
mean, but I have a lot of friends who are cops. I'm a fan of cops, like I support the cops, but like I will tell you, the corruption within the system, within law enforcement, like you said, when they were planting fucking shit in your house, when they were, they do weird things to make things go their way. Like it's just and then you see, at the end of the day, like the system isn't necessarily changing as much as it should. Like I said, we're still not dealing with, these criminals properly or prosecuting people incorrectly or, there's tons of stories of people serving jail time for crimes they didn't even commit, right? And it's just it's a failure to
Let me
revamp
circle
these
back on that
systems.
too. So with that whole arrest thing, my stepdad growing up was a homicide detective. So we grew
Interesting.
up in law enforcement, not the whole like my mom was married a bunch of times, but for many years she was married to this guy that was a homicide detective. He started off in arson, then he worked up to homicide. Super good guy. We grew up around the police department. I got a huge amount of respect for the police department. I don't look at the police as police officers. I look at them as people.
Yeah.
Some suck, some are awesome, right?
Yep.
And then the cops is your interaction with a cop is a lot of it's based off of you, right? If you go
Yes.
to a tiger and you fucking run from it and you act like it's prey, it's going to treat you like it's prey. But if you go up to a tiger and you just act normal around it, it's not gonna. I think give you an example. I get pulled over by the cops, right?
Hmm.
I got a few cars, but I got a white Tacoma, right? White truck, I roll all the windows down. If it's night, I turn the light on. I got some country music, playing. And I'm like, howdy, sir. Guess what happens? Immediately fucking their guard drops, right?
Right.
I don't got the windows up. I'm like, man, what the fuck you stopping me for?
Yeah. Probably not the best plan of
Hey,
attack.
we know those type of guys, right? Just
Yeah.
talking like a normal person. Immediately, guess what? They're de-escalated. They don't have to worry that they're going to get shot in the face by some random guy with tinted windows. And then you just talk to them like a normal person. You sound like the people they're used to being around. You know what I mean? You're Roger this, Roger that. And immediately it's like, all right, man, have a nice day. You know, every time I have interaction with the cops, it's always, always, always been pleasant, you know?
No, that's
Except
and
that
that's
time,
good.
but circling back to that incident that happened where we got arrested, those cops wound up getting, I think they were federal officers. They
Mhm.
were,
DEA.
yeah, DEA. There, everybody was there for the raid, but I think the guys who led it were DEA guys. Like the FBI was there, SWAT team was there, the sheriff was there, local police, everybody was there. Those guys wound up getting charged. And one of them, I think, went to jail. The other ones were like dismissed from the police department.
Right.
And then all those back charges were dropped. So for a few
Interesting.
years, I was a felon, right? But then
Yeah.
now, nothing, no record, no nothing. Everything's cleared. It's all been dismissed, expunged, erased, all that type of stuff.
Well, that's good because that's not common. You know what I mean? I think,
No, but
you
only
were able.
because of that situation because of their convictions, did they wind up going back and dismissing it. And it took years. And it took my uncle doing it because he had some money from all that, all the business, from all those years having that laboratory where he worked on, advanced avionics and stuff like that. So
Sure.
he had money to go back later on and fight it.
Yeah. So I mean, like you did all this prison time, you peeled somebody's face off, you're doing all these things as a young kid. So like where did you go from there?
Right after jail, I started working at a strip club
Hell yeah.
in Oceanside, the main attraction, you know, just throwing out drunk Marines and stuff like that. And then I started, it was all just lifting weights, working out. I started doing jujitsu when I was 13. So in 1990, I started doing jujitsu.
I bet that helped you when you were in prison.
Oh, easy. Yeah, dude. I choke people out all the time. It was like, I said it before, it's like magic. Nobody even knew what you were doing to them. Like
Yeah.
the UFC didn't come out till 1993.
Hmm.
I was already training for years when the UFC came out.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm not some super tough guy or nothing like that,
No.
but if you're just a normal street guy and you don't know jujitsu, you're gonna get turned off completely. You're gonna be fucking shut off.
Yeah.
So lifting weights, started working at like Bally's, LA Fitness, personal training, then worked up through the management part of LA Fitness.
Hmm.
You ever heard of LA Fitness before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Dude, the shit we did at LA Fitness was fucking crazy.
Really? Yeah, tell me
So
about this. 'Cause I used to train at 24-hour fitness and Lifetime, when I first got out before I went
yeah,
into the
yeah,
oil and gas industry. So
I'm at Lifetime now. God, where do you even start? So as like a manager, right? I had to work my way up, but let's say as like a manager, right? So they used to they would like pit managers against each other. So they would move me over to like another location and they'd be like, hey, we want to get this guy out of here, but we need to put some pressure on him. So like we had this one guy that wasn't performing and they knew the club could perform better. So they moved me over to his location. And they're like, hey, listen, he rides motorcycles, he lifts weights, he does all that sort of shit. Just do it better than him, right? Start mentally breaking him. So I bring my race bike over there. We start working out together. I could lift more than him. I could sell more than him. He had this chick he was banging. I started banging her. Like the whole thing was,
nice.
you got to do all that type of shit, right? The dude starts mentally breaking down, starts underperforming, and now they can get rid of him, right?
Hmm.
In California, you just can't fire somebody. So you got to put pressure on them to get them to underperform, and then you could get rid of them. So that's what
Gotcha.
we do. They send me to a place, have me start to break down the guys in there. And then, because they had all kinds of weaknesses in what they did. Like they weren't very detail oriented, right?
Hmm.
So then in our club, Jesus Christ, we had so many scams going on, bro. We had one guy that was slinging steroids, tons of steroids. Like you ever see that movie Pain and Gain? I think it
Yes.
was.
He walks you with the tackle box. He's just opening it up and just
We watched that movie and we're like, those fucking guys didn't have shit compared to what. Dude, we were 100 fucking times worse than those guys. So we had like a whole separate area. These desks were all set aside. They were all for selling steroids and stuff. And then we had another guy. I don't want to use his name. I'll call him Junior. Okay. So this guy Junior, he was part of the tribal council out on the reservation. So he'd made a bunch of money from like just being Indian, right?
Right.
Spoke Spanish. What he would do is he would sign up like what we call paisas in jail, it'd just be border brothers, right?
Yeah.
Mexican nationals. And they didn't have bank accounts. So so what he would do is you would come in and you and your family, you'd have four, five, six relatives. You would pay me cash directly, and he would sign a guest pass for you to be able to come into the club, right?
Hmm.
All of your monthly dues would go directly into his pocket, and he would bypass the front desk by having you on a guest pass. But also, one of the rules was somebody on the sales team always had to be banging the operations manager at the front desk. So we always had the head girl who was in charge. We always had somebody that had an in with her, right? Like, hey, look the other way on this, or just dismiss that, or like send this to corporate, you know?
Hmm.
We were pretty shady back then, right? But that was the system. Like you had the guys that we worked for, a lot of them were like dudes that used to sell drugs, but they don't anymore, ex-gangster, stuff like that. So I just got out of jail. I was already used to being around these guys and managing guys with personalities like this. So I did
Yeah.
really well because I mean, one is I'm not intimidated by them at all. You know, two is I know how they think, I know how they operate. So you just have to be able to operate around guys like that. And dude, our numbers were insane. We had huge fucking numbers, but we also had money coming in from the steroids. We had money coming in from Junior and his whole thing. Dude, he had tens of thousands of dollars coming every month, just cash.
That's
Just cash,
nuts.
cash, cash. And then what they tried doing is they tried breaking down the system and switching out the operations manager and bringing in like a new person. So we had to get a new like system to get to figure out the chick and like get to somebody had to hook up. Somebody always had to hook up with the operations girl because if you were, you had an in to be able to bypass stuff, or she would tip you off to like what corporate was trying to do to undermine you.
Yeah.
That's the way it worked at LA Fitness forever, bro.
That's
We
wild.
same thing at 24-hour fitness, at Bally's, at all of them.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
how most of them operate.
they do. And actually, I'll tell you for even my experience, like at 24-hour fitness and lifetime, it wasn't as extreme as that. We weren't selling steroids and shit, but there was definitely like a lot of shady shit going on in the background, selling client sessions, moving clients around, like, other trainers doing things with clients. Like, yeah, you saw that shit all the time. And then for me, like when my lawsuit started kicking off, I'm like, fuck, I do not make enough money as a trainer here in order to pay these legal bills. And next thing you know, I'm on a drilling rig in fucking North Dakota. And I'm like, all right. And honestly, the oil field is, and I'm not saying it's exactly like it, but it's very much like a prison environment. Like you're going up there with like ex-cons, ex-military
Okay,
dudes,
yeah. Yeah,
middle of
definitely.
fucking nowhere, wrapping chains, and it's you versus the fucking guys out there, and no one's coming to fucking save you. Like a lot of fucking problems are resolved with sledgehammers and fucking each other up behind the frac tanks real
We
quick.
had we had some like mobster style no-show jobs too. We had a couple guys that were on they used to work for us.
Hmm.
They quit to go work somewhere else, and then we just kept them on payroll. They would come in every 2 weeks, they would get their check, they would cash it, they would give us half the money,
Hmm.
and then they would take half the money. So we had guys on no-show jobs, all kinds of stuff.
That's fucking brilliant. I mean,
But
it's, I
here's
mean,
the thing.
whatever. Don't hate the player, hate the
That
game.
that type of stuff, like I never grew up like as a criminal, right? Never
Sure.
like grew up doing that type of stuff. In jail, you kind of learn that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So the only time in my life I ever really did stuff like that was during the LA fitness phase, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you just try to keeping your nose clean, bro. You were fucking done. You weren't gonna be there. You weren't gonna make it. Like you were around, or it was gonna happen and you weren't gonna get your cut, right?
Right. Yeah. And then you can't
So
survive. So.
So then, from there, I started working as a contractor. So having grown up in San Diego, grew up in the ocean, scuba diving, free diving,
Hmm.
body surfing, all that type of stuff. So very, very comfortable in the water. And one of my dive buddies, we were swimming back to shore. We were fitting back to shore, and he had said that one of his colleagues had broken his back um, at Camp Pendleton, and they needed a new guy, and if I wanted to apply. And he never really got into too much of what it was. It wasn't
Hmm.
secretive. It was just hard to explain what it was, right?
Right.
We knew it was water related. So I went into this trailer over in Area 53, like up by Camp Horno,
Hmm.
just did a basic interview, wanted to know the comfortability with the water, that type of stuff. And then like 2 days later, I was on a plane to Groton, Connecticut to fuck, I don't remember the name of it. It was some naval special warfare fucking something place, right?
Yeah, they have one out there. That's where a lot of our subs are too. So,
Yeah, it was something to do with the sub. So there was a big sub base right there.
yep,
And also there was we didn't get a lot of like sightseeing time. We were like landed airport right to the facility.
yep,
There was also, I think the Coast Guard Academy is out there too. Like
yeah,
they're,
Kings Point
so
near that area.
you're familiar with it.
Yep. Hmm.
Okay. So we were right there in that area, and we were in this huge facility that had a giant training tank, all these helicopter simulators, like simulated lightning, rain, huge wave pool, all that type of stuff. And really what
Yeah.
our job was is the contract that existed as the broad strokes was to increase the survivability of the military. So what they would do is they look at like where are our troops, Marines, airmen, where are people dying at? And it was
Hmm.
like, well, we're not at war. Well, when we're not at war, they're dying in training, right?
Yep.
Or in war, non-combat related, they're fucking rolling over into canals and drowning, in
Yep.
Iraq or shit
Hmm.
like that. So that was way above my head, but that was the overall broad strokes of the contract. And
Interesting.
then they determined what they needed to do is do a lot of vehicle safe, like a lot of vehicle rollover into like water scenarios.
Yeah, self-extrication stuff.
Yeah, all the egress stuff, and then helicopter crashes. A lot of the guys on the Muse going out there, helicopter crash, hit the water, flip upside down, or whatever the situation was. The passengers, might drown.
They get disoriented and shit on there.
So we were in charge of that type of training.
Interesting.
So we had these. What we were doing at that point is we're doing all the drown proofing stuff, all this the stuff you see in the movies, like tying your hands together, bobbing, all that shit. That stuff was fucking easy.
Yeah.
I mean, um, like you see the stuff the Navy SEALs do. One is I couldn't even be fucking yelled at, So like I never pretend like I'd be good in the military because fucking I'm terrible at taking direction. Um, I'm a fucking if I don't eat for a few days, I'm gonna fucking kill somebody, right?
Yep.
Like I couldn't do any of the Navy SEAL stuff, so I
Hmm.
don't want to pretend like I'm saying I can. But all the water stuff is
Hmm.
easy. All the long swims, the fucking we used to just go out and swim around the pier just for fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
A quarter mile out, across, back, do soil samples, swim down to the bottom, grab the soil, come back up 35 feet, all that type of shit. We did that stuff as kids. So anything water related has always been like not easy, but comfortable. Like a kid who grows up fucking skiing in the out in the, that's just what they grow up doing. So
Yeah.
that to me was always easy. So the drown proofing stuff was a lot of like confined space, upside down, disorientation. All of it was on breath hold.
Yeah. That's
So
tough for a
then,
lot of people.
so then it was like, all right, so here's the current situation. We have MVs and MRAPs, AAVs, Buffaloes, I believe they were called,
Yep.
were rolling over into canals, or in Afghanistan, an IED would go off and it would roll down a hill. Like, how do people survive that? So we had to come up with training situations that would help increase the survivability. But the most difficult aspect was the helicopter crashes and the vehicle crashes into water. So
Hmm.
that was the area where I focused on. So we had these huge simulators, multi-million dollar like AAV simulators, Humvee simulators, CH-43, 46s, MV-22 Ospreys, all that type of stuff. Then we had to come up with the training to provide to the airmen and the passengers on how to survive or increase the survivability. But one of the areas I focused on specifically was with the MV-22 Osprey. Normally you have a pull in or a push out exit for a CH-46 or 53
Yeah.
had explosive exits. I think it was a piece of like det cord that
Yep.
went all the way around. When you hit it, just blew the exit off, just because of the altitude they've flown at and the speed, and I guess just how powerful those rotors or the propellers rotors were. It would just blow the exits in or out, so they had to be kind of sealed. And then it was like if that aircraft hits the water, starts to sink, how do you deploy that without causing a concussion underwater that could knock everybody out, could kill people, injure people. So
Yeah.
run through a bunch of training to determine do you do it before you hit the water, after you hit the water, and just come up with like the best protocol. But what you have to do is you have to know exactly how the Marines are traveling, what they're taking with them, and go through multiple situations. So a lot of times we were out with them in training just to see like what they were exposed to. And they're like, all right, listen, here's the real scenario. Fucking 10 guys are sleeping. This guy has his ruck in the fucking middle of the floor. And like we have to come up with real life scenarios. And then we would put the Marines through that as part of the training regiment. And they needed that training in order for them to be deployable and go out on the Muse or
Hmm.
anything like that.
No, that's interesting because yeah, they had that the most recent AFSOC V-22 go down. The fucking gears tore each other up out there near Japan, and all those guys fucking died. But like, I'm actually interested in this because did you guys determine you have to blow the doors off before you hit the water?
Before you hit the water, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would figure
Yeah,
too.
but
Because
but right before, because it can blow up into the rotors. If you're 100 feet, 200 feet up, and you hit it too soon, or depending on what the situation could be, or what angle, I think they're called the nacelles, I believe they were called.
uh-huh.
Is that the right term? Do you remember? Do you know?
I think yeah
I think the
yeah
big pods are called nacelles. They could be fucking it up though.
yeah
Uh,
because you have this transition point in the rotors because those engines are actually C-130 engines, which is wild. Like they're literally C-130 motors strapped to like a shaft that connects it through the wings, and they've had lots of issues with them over the years. But yeah, there's this weird transition period that when it goes from hover to straight
yeah.
forward flight, where it like can lose lift if the computers aren't calibrated correctly, and it causes a lot of issues. So I could see that blowing the door off at the wrong point could completely fuck that entire system up.
So we wanted to do it right before you hit the water so that if something did happen,
Yeah,
it had destroyed the rotors. It
you're
would
already going down anyway.
exactly. And that was
Yeah.
the key thing is try to get people to not do it too soon.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's got to be hard because those guys love to hit buttons in there because they eat a bunch of fucking crayons because they're Marines, and I can say that because I was a Marine for a short period of time, so it's
I
fine.
think they would agree with you.
Yeah, and I heard horror stories. Even guys like one of my best friends, he was a Marine infantry officer, and he was telling us like the worst plane to fucking rappel out of was the V-22. They were like the rotor downwash, and like they drop a 90-foot fucking rope off the back, and you're like just fucking getting blown around off the
Yeah,
tailgate as you're trying to come down.
it's two hurricane, it's two fucking tornadoes above you. They're gnarly. You could just watch the training going on like far away, and you're getting hit with the fucking rotor wash.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because they're trying to replace the V-22s eventually because they've had mechanical issues with them over the years, but like the Army's trying to replace it with this new Valor system, which is like a knockoff V-22. But I will tell you, as an Army guy, like, look, we all talk shit about helicopters, but at least they can fucking auto rotate into the ground, and you have a smaller chance of survival. Like, you go down in a V-22, you're going down, like, and you're gonna
Yeah.
die. So,
Yeah, they're gnarly aircraft.
yeah, I mean,
They're
they're
gnarly.
cool because I mean they're
They-
way faster. Like when they actually work, they're great. But if the things go wrong in them, good fucking luck.
yeah, they
Like,
look futuristic. But
yeah.
even today, they still look like they're from the future.
So where did you transition from that? Man, that sounds like a really cool fucking mission because, like I said, I've done some of that training. So
So we were on a
thank you
5 year
for trying to save our
contract.
lives.
We were on a 5 year contract. And during the one thing that happened that was weird during that is the Obama administration wanted to get rid of a lot of contractors because something happened with like the Blackwater guys over in Iraq.
Yeah, they hung them from a bunch of bridges and lit them on fire.
I
Oops.
think I think is when they like shut up a village or something. Remember they
Yeah,
got like
happens all the time. Thank you,
yeah.
Eric
So
Prince.
so for so for political reasons, they're like, we need to cut down the contractors. And we're like, listen, we're not in combat contractors. We're
No,
fucking, we're stateside or we're overseas, but we're a non-combat situation.
right.
And we had a security clearance, but we didn't have anything like special about us. You know what I mean? Like we knew troop movements really well. I could tell you how many troops are leaving, what they were leaving with, where they were going. But
Right.
besides that, there was nothing secretive about what we were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So your
Um,
basic clearance. So
and then we had a sister unit that stood up and went out to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, to I believe the 101st or is it the 82nd? Who's out
no, it's
there?
the 101st, but also the 160th SOARs out there. They're the Black Hawk Down fucking black helicopter dudes.
So
They're my
we
favorite.
part of our team out there. We split our team and sent them out there with those guys, and I almost went with them. And I was like,
Oh, you should have.
I like the fucking Marines. The Marines are fucking cool. Marines don't give a fuck, Dude, those guys are spoiled as fuck over there. When
Oh
my,
yeah.
when my
Sword is
buddy
sexy
got
as
there,
fuck.
he's like, dude, the 101st has more money than God. He's
Yeah,
like,
it's
dude,
all air assault.
we have
So, of
these giant fucking like chairs in our office with our names in them, and there's like
course they do.
underwater cameras. And he's like, dude, the amount of money these guys spend on their facility is fucking staggering.
Did they
We're,
get to work with any 160th SOAR guys across the road, so to speak, when they were out there?
are those Little Bird guys?
Yeah, the little bird dudes.
Yes. So we had Little Bird simulators that we built out at my location and we sent out to those guys.
Okay, so you got to
Um,
build them and not play with them as much because like those
exactly.
guys are like the most fun dudes in the army, in my opinion. Like
He's like, dude,
the
the
best
high speed shit they were doing and
dude,
like,
best helicopter pilots in the fucking world for sure. Those
yeah,
guys do shit. You're like, what? I didn't know this airplane was capable of doing that. Like,
yeah. Yeah, so I missed out a little bit on that, but over in Camp Pendleton, like we were in a trailer. Like it's even to this
yeah,
trailer's still fucking there, dude. The
yeah.
trailer from
Oh,
the 80s.
100%.
There it does, it drips when it rains, all that type of shit. So the Marines definitely do without, like they don't get anything. We had dudes come that were like weapons companies or just grunts, and they're sleeping out in the mud behind the trailer in tents
Yep.
and come in for training and then go back in their fucking tents sleeping in the mud. You're like, dude, these motherfuckers are tough as shit.
Yeah, yeah, people don't understand how much money the Marine Corps doesn't get. I mean, the newest sexiest thing they have, and this is probably after your time, but you worked with the CH-53s, right? The King Stallions, like the big ones. So the new one they just came out with, the Super King Stallion. Oh my God, the CH-53K. That thing
Uh,
is like the F-22 of fucking helicopters. That thing can lift a fucking Striker vehicle. It's like the most largest heavy lift helicopter next to like the Mi-6 Halo or whatever it is that the Russians have. But that thing fucking
is,
falls apart all
is
the
it
time.
like a rebuild or is it a
It's
new
a
design?
completely new airframe. It is not. So it looks like the old King Stallions, right?
Yeah.
But it's a completely new revamped system, completely fly by wire. It is a massive fucking helicopter, and some of the shit that thing can do is very very impressive. So that's the one new thing the Marine Corps has got going for it. It's got a brand new helicopter that no one else has except them, and they're still sleeping out in the tents in the fucking mud. So
Yeah. Even the 53s, like the old ones, it's impressive that thing even lifts off the ground.
it's
It's
huge.
so gigantic.
It's huge. And like my one buddy was telling me it was so funny. He was out in Pendleton and he's like, "Oh yeah, those things crash all the fucking time." So they were out there flying through the fucking mountains and all of a sudden they fucking lost lift. And they're like, "Oh fuck, we're going down." You could fit like 30 dudes in the back of that thing. And they crashed that motherfucker into the side of the mountain and that thing snapped in half and they all lived. Like
Dude,
they auto rotated just enough that like they snapped the entire airframe in half and everyone was just hobbling off going, "Oh fuck." And they're like, "Oh, well, I guess this doesn't count as a disability claim because I'm still walking off the aircraft." You know what I mean? This thing's and they had to bring in two other 53s to fucking hoist the fucking wreckage out of there. And then they left those guys up there to continue their fucking field training exercise.
oh yeah, you're
They're
not
like,
done. You're
they're like,
not
"No, no,
done.
the helicopter went down. We're gonna just pretend that you guys are gonna keep on going." It's like, oh dear God, like these guys need to
Yeah,
go to the hospital. They're all
no
fucked
one's
up now.
no one's secured you guys left. You got to continue on.
Yeah, it's also all your food and water's gone because it got destroyed in the crash. So we're gonna have to
Dude,
wait for resupply.
The Marines are the best with that shit, dude. They just keep going relentlessly. I talked to my buddies who have never been around the military, and they're like, bro, but the news says that China's military is this. I was like, bro, shut the fuck up. I was like, the Marines would go through there and butcher that whole fucking country, dude.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. It's like, yes, does China like have more equipment and more people? Yes, but they do not have the type of intestinal fortitude training that most of the Army and the Marine Corps has. Like,
It's not even the amount of machines you have. It's the logistics, it's the operations, it's all the back end stuff to be able to keep that stuff. After you do your first initial assault, there's so much behind the scenes logistics. America has
correct.
hundreds of years of operational logistics. China has zero.
Exactly. And that's one thing I always tell
Look
people.
how
That's
bad Russia is, dude. Russia's fucking,
exactly.
what are they at now? Year three and a half?
Yeah, hey, they're really good at building killing machines. You know what they're really not good at? Putting fuel and new tires on those machines. So, and that's what we saw in the invasion of Ukraine. I mean, that's one thing that like, we pride ourselves in is that anywhere in the world I can put a fucking Burger King trailer on the fucking ground out of a C-17 in 72 hours. China can't even get its guys fucking food on time. So they might be really good in the initial assault. Like they might wipe out a bunch of dudes, but then like you even saw in Ukraine, they rolled all those T-72s and 92s up there. They're fucking taking out Kiev and fucking blowing shit up and airborne operations and all this other shit. And then what we did is we just gave them a bunch of javelins and said, all right, yeah, fuck the tanks. Shoot that fucking fuel truck about 5 miles back. And then we just cut their supply lines. And then
Yeah,
that was a bunch of dudes walking around getting shot at because their tank ran out of gas and they ran out of ammo and they're just fucked, right? Like the U.S. by far, our
the
biggest strength is our
level of
logistical.
ineptitude and incompetence is shocking.
Well,
It's shocking.
and that's actually the discussion I had yesterday was like what Americans don't understand about like Russian tactics is that they will throw just like they did in World War II. They'll throw 18 million people to their deaths as long as it's upholding the Soviet Union and they don't care about losing people or
Yeah.
equipment. In the US, we have the complete opposite. Like we focus on our people and our equipment and then, protecting the Constitution of the United States. We don't believe in just like sending our guys to a meat grinder, so to speak. It's a different tactics mentality.
The difference in World War II is when you have a bolt action rifle, it's hard to kill 18 million people. When you have a saw, it's fucking super easy to kill 18 million people.
Yeah, and they only give half those guys guns, and they said, "Hey, when the guy drops in front of you, pick up his rifle and just load it with the 3 rounds he's got left."
Could you imagine the type of kill counts our guys will have if we go to war with China?
Oh,
Guys
it's
will
good.
come back and be like, yeah, I killed 700 people.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be
That 240
the,
Bravo is no fucking
the,
joke.
the numbers will be insane, bro. It'll be staggering.
Yeah, and it's just like, there and I've seen this too, is that like, especially when I was overseas, we are such bigger humans than them because we have such equal, easy access to protein shakes, energy drinks, tornadoes, fucking white claw white monsters and shit. Like these guys, like they're tiny. They're like 120 to 170 pounds. Like they're not big people. And like you see in a bunch of white jacked American dudes, half of them know jujitsu, and they're over there and they just like they're carrying around 90-pound packs and they're carrying around big fucking, medium machine guns and shit. Like people just don't understand how much bigger and stronger Americans are than most other world
Yeah,
militaries.
they said that Chinese have the worst eyesight out of any major military.
Yeah,
That something
nutrition.
like 80% wear glasses. And then what they do with what the fuck do they call those guys? Conscripts or whatever the fuck they call
Yeah.
them.
Hmm.
But when they join the military, they don't get tactical training. They do a
No.
lot of marching, maintenance, but
Hmm.
they don't want their people to learn military tactics because they could rise up against the Communist Party. So
Correct.
their actual tactics, they have almost none.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that's why like people today were all freaking out because like India launched 24 missiles into fucking Pakistan, and I'm like, okay, first of all, Uh, I mean, funny. If anyone knows what's going on in the Kashmir, it's kind of funny because if you watch videos of those guys, like the Pakistanis and the Indians are beating each other on the border with like bamboo sticks and shit, and just yelling at each other, like, you fucking guy, you fucking guy, you know?
you bloody, bloody, you
Yeah,
bloody.
bloody you, buddy. I cover you. Yeah, and it's just like, but I'm like, oh my God, there's gonna be a war, and they both have nukes, and I'm just sitting there going like, it would last like 2 weeks. Like they can't sustain themselves out there. They don't have good boots. They don't have like good uniforms. They don't have like good equipment. Like everyone's freaking out about this stuff. And I'm like, you're thinking about this from an American mindset of someone who's obviously never been in a third world country. Like these guys will fuck with each other all fucking day, but at the end of the day, they can never do sustainment combat operations. And like even go back to the Iran-Iraq war in the 90s, like they just obliterated each other. They killed like hundreds of thousands of people, like in the millions probably. The count's unofficial. And you know what happened at the end of it? Fucking nothing. They just left all that shit out there to rot in the desert, skeletons everywhere, even to this day, because they can't even like have the logistics to go and like clean up after themselves. I
Yeah.
mean, even the biggest joke was like, "Oh my God, the nuclear submarines from the Indian Navy are gonna." I'm like, I would never want to be trapped in an Indian submarine. Can you imagine what it smells like down there with those hatches closed? Those guys don't wear deodorant. I've been to Nepal. I've been to Delhi. Okay, like it's just body odor and like just self hygiene is not a thing in some of these countries at
It's
all.
gross. It's gross. Those places can use a war.
Those places could use a war. Just put them in their own prison system for a while and see what happens. And just throw a bunch of bamboo sticks like the Joker. Like, all right, guys, we have a position open and we're gonna have tryouts. Like,
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with this whole China thing.
Oh man, I could talk about this for a while. Like, so the interesting thing is, officially Pete Hegseth put the memo out, so it's we could talk about it a little bit more. But we are switching from COIN counterinsurgency to LISCO, which is large scale combat operations now. And actually, I will say this is a one weakness in the American military right now is that we for the last 20 years we've become so comfortable with having superiority in everything. We have airstrikes on demand. We have guys in FOBs out there that are always protected. We have the best weaponry. We have all this other stuff. But what these other countries like China, Ukraine, Russia are realizing is that cheap drones with thermite grenades attached to them, man, they are super fucking dangerous. I dealt with that a lot when I was overseas, and it's a shitty way to go if that's what happens. But we are not good at fighting large scale combat operations. We are not. We haven't done that. We haven't trained for that really since like the 80s. We've always had this mentality of we have the Abrams tank, we have the Bradleys, we have the Apaches. That was the trifecta they came out with after the first Gulf War, and we tested it, and it worked great. We fucking obliterated one of the largest militaries in the world in Iraq in less than 100 hours. But that's not who we're going to be fighting moving forward. The Chinese do train. The Russians do train, and like I said, they don't care about how many they lose. They'll develop, they'll throw 100,000 pieces of equipment to the meat grinder and kill all their people. They don't care. And one thing that Americans have become super passive about is our access to technology, right? So one thing I emphasize with my guys now in the field is like, hey, no cell phones, no GPS. You gotta learn how to land nav. You gotta learn how to shoot without optics and use iron sights because anything with a battery, you turn that shit on, we can see you, right? And that's actually what they're learning in Ukraine as any nods, anything with a battery pack in it, we have optics and we have satellite imagery that we can see you from like miles away. So it's like World War One with drones. So that's why they're going back to trench warfare and then learning how to move your command and control nodes. So, in the past, commanders used to set up their tents and their computers with their air conditioning and everything else, and everything was good. Now you do that, you're getting hit with a high precision high mobility rocket system within 20 minutes. So now the United States military is having to relearn, old school World War II basically is that you set up a command and control module and we move it every 20 minutes. We're redirecting artillery fires, highly mobile artillery, highly mobile air assets. And actually, one of the biggest things that Pete even came out with and said is that we're not investing as much into combat attack aircraft because they're manned aircraft. And we saw them just get shot down like nothing in Ukraine. Like Apaches would not last very long in a near peer conflict. So it's utilizing now each infantry squad is going to have drones, drone swarms, drone vehicles, and use that to support the infantry. You'll still have close air support. You'll still have, helicopters as we've had them in the past, but it's a much different mentality. So we're basically integrating World War One large scale operations with modern technology and advancement. And the whole thing is being able to shoot, move, and communicate quickly versus staying idle and being complacent. And it's a very interesting transition in the U.S. Army for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting to see. I think what they'll do is they'll do obviously the B-21, take out all their communications
Yep.
overnight,
Yep. That's the
and
Air Force's
then
job.
they'll use the orcas. Have you looked into the orca subs?
Oh, no. Are these the autonomous ones?
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
they're fucking scary.
They are scary because, like, good luck trying to find that thing.
So use the orcas, destroy their little bit of, naval assets that they have.
Yep.
Their carriers are a fucking joke,
No, they
but
bought them off the Russians. They're garbage.
dude, don't even get me started on the Russian fucking air. Anyone listening to this, look up Russia's flagship aircraft carrier. It's called like the Admiral fucking
Isn't the
Yokov.
Khrushchev or something like that?
Something like, dude, it's a
Yeah.
fucking joke, bro. It's
It's a
such a joke.
it's a
Watch a
rust bucket.
documentary on it and you'll laugh your ass off, dude. It's ridiculous. But so take them out with the orcas. We have so many underwater drone type things and air type things that we've already controlled all those islands previously in World War II. We
Yep.
know what to do. Then it's just a matter of attrition, right? Our Navy shuts them off through like what's that fucking little strait called north of Australia? That little pinch point, whatever that one's called.
It's
They're
not the
not getting any supplies.
it's
And
not the Strait of
instead,
Gibraltar, is it? I don't know. No, I think
no,
that's
that's
over
the
by
other one. Yeah.
Africa.
But
Yeah.
but there's a Navy blockade that most of their stuff comes in from the ocean.
Hmm.
So remember 6 months into the Ukraine war, we were like, dude, this is crazy. Like they've been doing this for 6 months. That same 6 months into China and their whole economy starts to collapse.
Yeah,
We
pretty much.
we would destroy China quicker than Russia could destroy Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing it now. Actually, Trump's doing that with the tariffs, and people don't understand that. Like, this is actually a fucking class A move is that we're weakening their entire economy without firing a shot. And people don't understand, like, yeah, okay, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more for your Amazon packages for a couple months, but like this is a key way of bringing them to their knees without actually having to do combat. And I will say, like, the ones like what like we talked before the podcast started, with when we lost that other fucking F-18 off the end, is that they are learning how to evade some of our defense systems, right? So they are getting missiles through the barrier where giant carriers are having to do evasive action, right? Because that's how they know they can get us. They can't build a carrier. They can't build nuclear submarines. They can't build the shit that we have. But if they could take us out with a missile or a drone that's a hundredth of the cost or a 100,000th of the cost,
Mhm.
that's a win for them. And something that Iran and China are practicing now, which I find very interesting, is they're taking giant oil tankers, right? And they're converting them to have drone launch platforms off of them,
Seen
right?
those.
So they disguise them as like, oh, this is just a cargo ship or container ship, and the containers open up and all these drones fly out, or these helicopters and the Chinese are going off because that's what they have a lot of, right? They do a lot of commerce through, the Suez Canal or the Strait of Hormuz or out there, and they're basically using their civilian assets, kind of like the way we did in World War II, the Merchant Marines. Like the Merchant Marines did a lot of that too. But it's interesting of how they're countering our high end technology with cheap, very inexpensive methods of countering our stuff. And it's a fascinating thing to see. So.
Don't think that the CIA doesn't have a few Chinese fucking container ships loaded with missiles and all kinds of
Oh
tech.
no, we 100% do. Like
But
actually,
we're
so
going right into their ports and just detonating those motherfuckers.
hell yeah. No, and actually the Marines outside of Japan, they have an entire floating like war stock. People don't, that's open source information, but like we have multiple container ships that are run by the Merchant Marines that literally they can be anywhere within a few days and offload enough stuff to sustain a full combat war with the Marines for 90 days. So like good fucking luck,
So
you
part
know.
of my job as a contractor is we had a training location over in Okinawa. So I was in Okinawa for a while in
Good old Oki.
2010. And there was a little bit of tensions going on with the North Koreans. I think they had shot some artillery and like a guy got killed and it got a little bit heated, right?
Yeah.
So they were doing a lot of training in anticipation that something might happen, or maybe they just do training to kind of show like, hey, we know what the fuck we're doing.
Hmm.
I seen a bunch, maybe 16 to 18 F-22 Raptors take off at Kadena Air Base, like
Yep.
fast, like combat style. Fucking shocking and frightening, bro. Shocking and frightening. There's probably not a better source of might besides like a fucking Titan 3 missile, whatever the fucking nuclear missiles we have are.
The
The
Minutemen threes. Yeah.
F-20, those F-22s taking off are literally frightening, dude. They rumble the earth. They move at angles that don't even make sense. If you're a kid and you're flying like a fake jet around, you can't even twist your wrist at the angles these fucking F-22s can move at, dude.
And the
They're,
crazy part is that's 30-year-old technology. Like the F-22 came online in 2006 and was already in development for 20 years prior to that.
yeah.
So imagine like, yeah, the F-35 is online. It's had its growing pains, but like, we're coming out with the F-47. So imagine what we've been working on for the last 30 years that you don't even
Imagine
know
the
about.
drones. We have the unmanned drones.
Oh, I've seen some cool shit, man. Some of the stuff we have is scary.
We're not far from Area 51 over here in Vegas. It's just north of us. And we go out to the middle of the desert sometimes. There's a huge buffer zone over that, but they're flying stuff around and you don't see anything, but the shit you hear in the air and just the fucking way it's ripping through the sky, it sounds like you're in an air show. So they got some crazy stuff just ripping the sky apart up in Area 51. That
Yeah.
whatever it is going to be fucking shocking and frightening to whoever's on the receiving end of it.
Well, and the cool thing is, even out there, they even brought back the F-117 out of retirement with a bunch of civilian pilots who used to fly that ship back in the 80s and the 90s, like our original stealth fighter, because what they are using it for is to train anti-stealth aircraft to our current stealth aircraft, like actually how to do, because I mean, literally the Chinese and the Russians, they can tout all their bullshit planes that they want, but even still nothing comes close to like our original stealth aircraft we developed in the late 70s, right? So we're using them as red air, yeah, out there and countering all those things. So it's kind of cool. You see some guys, they hide out there in the hills before they get arrested by fucking Air Force SF, and they're taking pictures like, oh, the F-117s are back online, and they named themselves the Dark Knights, like off of fucking Batman and shit. Like it's fucking cool to see. The stuff that the civilians don't understand, like what the military is, but we really try to live like 30 years in the future. You're just not going to hear about it until 30 years later, right?
Yeah, or until war kicks off.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like some of the drone shit that we've been working on is wild. Like it's I mean, have you ever seen like the bats that the Marines carry around? It's like these like as big as a coffee cup and like they can like roll like a football, like the carbon fiber wings and they fit inside your backpack. So like now a Marine infantry squad unit can go out there and instead of oh, there's a hill up there, they just take this little thing out of their backpack, they throw it in the air and they got eyes on. They could do GPS locking on it, fly it right back, or just self-detonate it if they want to make it self-explosive. And then, it's just it's such an advantage, right, of what they're doing. And we even have like the new night vision stuff that has integrated thermal in it because thermal is the new nods now in modern warfare. Thermal is what's fucking dudes up in Ukraine a lot is because the Chinese are basically mass producing thermals now, and they're giving them to everybody out there. So that's another thing that with Lisco, like I said before, large scale combat operations is teaching troops how to like really camouflage and actually hide their thermal signatures and turn their EM signatures off because the fucking Russians have all these new sensors and stuff because they can't beat our stealth, they can't beat our jamming and all those other things. But what they can do is they can see because American soldiers love their fucking cell phones and they love all the things with their batteries and their fucking Instagram. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey man, turn that shit off because like we can see you. So like even when I was out there, I was telling guys to carry silent bags. I carry one on my kit all the time. Any electronics I have, I slip it into that Faraday bag on my kit because you just that's the best way to protect yourself is get rid of that EM signature. So
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the world keeps moving along that path. Hopefully, we could just stop all this war shit, though. Ideally, it'd be nice, but
well, AG, that's exactly like what I do with the American First Veterans Association is I try to get younger guys like us to go run for office. Cause, like I said, is that, they sent my entire generation off to war for 20 fucking years. They killed multiple, friends that I've had over the years. And now, everyone's telling us that we should keep reelecting those people because they know best. The Nancy Pelosi's, the Mitch McConnell's, the Chuck Schumers, and all these old guys. And it's not true. And, we do these podcasts, like you said, we talked to Baker, I talked to Dan Holloway last week. Like, we're running all these companies and we are what America is now. Like we're the ones raising our kids and taking them to soccer practice and paying the most in taxes. And we're really good about bitching about how much everything is fucked up. And then we don't do anything about it. Like, it's like, hey, well, if you're pissed off at like whatever, Dan Crenshaw or all these other people, then why don't you go primary them? I tell them, hey, put your uniform back on, go to Men's Warehouse, learn how to tailor a suit, and just talk shit. And we could talk shit on podcasts all day. Most of these politicians are mentally retarded. Like, and no offense to them, but like they can't hold a conversation. They want to stick to their three talking points. They can't get anything done. They don't pass any bills. They're taking advantage of the American public. And I sat there and went, well, why don't we just do it? The French rolled out a guillotine and started cutting everybody's heads off. And I'm not encouraging that level of violence, but it's like all you have to do is show up and run for the school board, run for your county commissioner office, be mayor of your small little town. Like you could start dismantling the corruption in the government by just showing up. Because I mean, I bet. When was the last time you were at like a county board meeting?
yeah, nobody goes.
Nobody goes. And you show up and it's like these five elected old people like who are collecting Social Security and they're just going to raise your taxes. You want to know why? Because there's nobody in the room to like oppose what's going on in the county or whatever. And I'm sure you see a lot of that in Vegas, especially with the business that you run. You're dealing with all these like whether it's taxes or tariffs or sales and everything else. And you worked for Apple too, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I was a manager at Apple.
Yeah. So like we have a trillion-dollar corporation that is a well-oiled machine and they could do things really well. But we can't bring like some of that modeling into how efficiently our government can work. And people are bitching at like Elon Musk and for firing all these people. But like, I mean, fuck, you probably saw this. You know how useless half of the federal workers are? They sit around and do fucking nothing. And everyone's like, well, we're getting rid of so many jobs. I'm like, we're wasting money paying these people to do nothing. You know what I mean? And they're just taking advantage of the American taxpayer. And like, what are you going to do as a business owner to like correct those actions, right?
The only thing wrong with the whole system, I mean, there's always things wrong, but the biggest thing wrong is obviously it's the media. It's the
Yeah.
person telling the message. And like, it's such a powerful thing. Imagine going back in time 100, 200 years, owning the newspaper, the most powerful thing you could do.
Yes.
The most powerful thing you do. So controlling the message is super powerful. We got to get the media back.
Hmm.
Stop using that ancient media system because when people are like, "What are these people?" No one's outraged. No one's
No.
questioning. It's just these one entities are making it out to be bigger than it is. Everyone's stoked Elon's doing what he's doing. but you got this one voice that sounds like they're echoing for the majority. And we know during the elections that they weren't, and they're not.
No, it's not. And that's actually why I do these podcasts and I interview, fucking awesome people like you, is because like we are the new age of media. I mean, I think Trump made a huge move going on the Joe Rogan podcast, going on a couple other podcasts around the country, is because now you're talking to most Americans. Most Americans, I mean, like I don't sit around and watch Fox News or MSNBC or CNN all day because as an Intel guy, I know it's all bullshit anyway. But like there are so many Americans, and like no offense, but like Americans are dumb. They believe everything that they're told or everything that they read or every TikTok they see must be the truth, right? And it's like people have this lack of desire of education to actually learn about something or learn about what's going on overseas or, learn how to actually source different media things. And they just believe what they're told. And then they're creating riots or, AOC and Bernie Sanders are showing up here in Greeley, Colorado and fucking having a 20,000 person protest. Like I literally went to one of these protests against one of my congressmen just to show up, just to like, just to be an asshole. And they're just like, we're all going to die and they're taking away women's voting rights with the SAVE Act. I'm like, they're asking you to show up with an ID to vote. I don't really understand why that's bad. But what if I'm a married woman and I have to change my name and now my name's not listed because I have my maiden name on there? They're taking away my right to vote. I'm like, no, you're just too fucking lazy to go to the DMV and change your driver's license. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you have to have like
The real
valid ID to do anything in this country. Like, I don't understand, why are we fighting the most simplistic and basic things to protect our own constitutional representative republic? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, the women's rights thing's weird is because what right do you not have? What right does anybody not have? Everybody has the same rights.
That's what I tell them. I'm like, I want you to tell me explicitly how your rights are being taken away in this country, because I will buy you a fucking plane ticket to Somalia, and you can tell me about how many rights you don't have here in the United States. I mean, they were handcuffing dudes and throwing them off of buildings when I was out there in the Middle East because they were gay. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna go really well for you. It's gonna go really well for you. I'll just bring you there. We could talk about truth and freedom. I mean, like, I'm a Catholic, right? So fucking, and when Syria got retaken over by the rebels a couple months ago, they were slitting the throats of Catholics and bleeding them out into the Red Sea right there. They don't fucking care. And this is like 2025. Like this isn't like 100 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
people just don't understand how good they have it in America. They really don't, and they are so quick to burn the bridges before realizing that the bridge that was built in the first place was created by the very population that they live in. Like it blows my mind.
Yeah, you gotta blame parents, bro. People fucking helicopter parents ruin kids, ruin the next generation. We need a little bit more adversity in our kids' lives.
Absolutely. Like my parents, they encouraged me to go out and get hurt all the fucking time. Like they were just like, you know what, Adam, do whatever the fuck you want as a teenager. If you get arrested, don't call us. So so it was like it was up to me. I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. I wanted to do all these things. I wanted to join the military. Like, and it was up to me to make those decisions for myself, good or bad, to decide my own fate. And now you got, oh, my kid tripped and fell. Like, kids need to climb trees and get hurt and fall down and learn what pain tolerance is. Like, I think it's great that you started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at like 13 years old, because kids need to learn how to fight. Kids need to learn how to get punched in the face. Kids need to learn, a little bit of adversity. And, that's why I don't understand this giant fight against masculinity and against like, the nuclear family and everything else, is because you are destroying the culture that literally cultivated this country for the last 250 years. And you think it's going to be better without those things. That makes no sense to me. You need men that are trained for violence, and women too, like, to an extent. But like, if you're not training these people for violence, then what are you going to do?
The one thing I'm stoked, obviously, we're all stoked that the election went the way it did.
Hmm.
Can you imagine if it didn't, bro?
I
Can
actually
we
can't.
sit here today and it not being the way that it went? I don't know what the fuck I'd be doing.
Yeah, I mean, because you're a major business owner. You've been on all these podcasts. You've been around the world doing all these things. Helping all these people, and you're like you're a survival story. Like I said, you were ripping guys' fucking faces off with a razor blade in prison.
I
You
was
know.
just, I was out of boredom. It wasn't really
Oh, is that a boredom? Yeah, I just tore some guy's
who I
face off because
am.
I
It's
was
just something
bored.
I did.
And but then like that, then you're a contractor for the military. You got your records expunged. You've been you've been living a life of basically what capitalism exemplifies here in America, is doing all these great things and being a man and learning from your mistakes. And most Americans just aren't doing that today. But you are a living example of what success can look like despite severe adversity.
Well, I appreciate that. I just try to always be good at whatever it is that I'm doing, you know?
Yeah, and what do you think are some good advice for people for that? Like, you might fail, you might make mistakes, but like, what do you think Americans are missing out on when it comes to being good and focusing on the things and being successful in those things?
One is anything you're doing, you should be good at it. So good at it starts by taking a deep and constant analysis on where you're at.
Hmm.
Right. So if you have a viewpoint on something, you should always be questioning that viewpoint and reassessing it to determine if that viewpoint is still valid, if it's old, if it's new. We get these things, this human nature where people get to a certain point in life and they just don't learn anything more, right? Like
Right.
you're taught stuff as a kid, but at some age, just whatever is in your brain, that's it. You're stubborn and you move on the rest of your life with that's the way it is, right? Where I look at life more like there's not the good old days and there's not the bad old days. Where literally the world moves in this constant stream like a river. We get plugged in partway down the river and we exit further along the river, and the river just keeps moving without us, right?
Right.
So from the time you're born, that's where you get your first inceptions, your first ideas, but you feel like that's the way things are. They're not. They were changing during that time, but it didn't feel like they were. So always staying fluid, movement, having like a high level of ambiguity where you constantly deal with change and knowing that it's a flowing circle or it's a flowing river constantly. I think to me, that's important. So I'll have a view on something. I'll get more insight from people I know, and I'll be like, you know what? I've now changed my view on that, right?
No, that's good. And I think most Americans are so stuck in their viewpoints that they can't constantly adapt and change to the environment around them. And it's okay to admit we make mistakes, or it's okay to admit that we change the way we view things in certain ways. And like you kind of did that with the company that you started. And speaking of which, before we talk about that, before we just talk about all the hot chicks and all the stuff that you do on the internet, which is fucking awesome. I love it. I was clicking through your story yesterday and you were fucking with a snake. What the hell was that about?
So my side
It's like
business,
Florida man shit.
I breed snakes.
Oh, is this where you get all your leather from? You self source it.
No,
You
no,
self
that
source.
that 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 comes up all the time. Snake leather is actually not very good.
Okay, interesting.
Very brittle. It flakes off really easy. Doesn't have a high abrasion resistance. You'll see some leather, you'll see rattlesnake boots once in a while, but generally it's pretty rare. And when you see like Louis Vuitton or Hermes do something with like a python bag, you'll see they'll put like this thick glazed gel over the top to keep the scales down from lifting up.
Hmm.
And they'll do that just because the leather is very, very brittle. It's not very good. Sun damages it. So snake isn't particularly good for leather. Um, but so not even as a side business, but as a side hobby, I started buying snakes, and I was like, these things are cool. And then I'd be like, I want that snake. And my buddy'd be like, oh, you can't get that snake, bro. It takes like 25 years to breed that snake. And I'm like, well, fuck you. I could get that snake. So I'll go buy a snake for like $25,000, bring it in, breed it to another snake I got that's like 25 grand, and then just produce something crazy. Well, I'm in the process of doing that, creating something crazy the world's never seen before.
What kind of snake is this?
They're all ball pythons, right? So they don't
Okay.
get too big, maybe 5 feet max, pretty thick, like as thick as a forearm. And they're subterranean snakes. So they like to live in like burrows and termite mounds and like sub-Saharan Africa. So
Right.
they want to live underground. So you keep them in these tubs in these specially made racks in your house. They're not in a glass aquarium. They don't want that. So they live basically in like a drawer. And
Yeah.
like they do in nature, they tolerate you. They don't want to see you. They'll put up with you a little bit. But they're just beautiful works of art. So think about like koi fish, right?
Hmm.
Koi are beautiful. It takes years and years and years to breed them and to create the unique look they have. And if you're into koi, you're into fish, you're into racehorses, anything like that that takes like a pedigree of breeding, the devil's in the details. The more you know, the more it's like, wow, I really appreciate that. Just like if you've seen a Picasso, me and you
Hmm.
may look at a Picasso and be like, that looks fucking stupid, right?
Yeah.
But if we were like art enthusiasts, like we'd be like, look at how he turned the brush, like right there. Like it's such high level shit.
Right.
So it's more of like the snakes look beautiful, but the more you know about them, the more beautiful and like stunning and complex they get.
That's actually really
Like
cool. I
almost
mean,
like a fine wine that you look at with your eyes.
Yeah, because like I homestead out here and I got into chickens and I started breeding my own chickens and like crossbreeding different breeds and trying to make them like hardier and like more. I
Yeah.
call them Vietnamese chickens because they go out there and like hunt things and they kill things and they go like, blah, like stick their head above the grass and they all alert and then they walk in a line and they assassinate like frogs and like mice and stuff.
Chickens are monsters where they kill anything smaller than them.
Yeah, they're fucking little dinosaurs, and they kill each
Oh,
other too. I've watched them like completely like go after owls and shit, and like smoke each other in the head. And then last year, what I did was kind of going. I mean, I'm not breeding snakes out here in Colorado, but I got bees, and bees are very fascinating insects. Like what they've done for my property is amazing. Like in the summertime, you just see all the fields around me, like
mhm.
thousands and thousands of wildflowers are blooming everywhere. So it's like I've actually like increased the production of the ecosystem and brought in more animals and more bees and more honey. And like some of the shit that I've been making out of honey is like incredible. Like beeswax and making my own candles and stuff. It's actually like such a fascinating thing to like live off the land and like and interact and like crossbreed these different species and like maximize them for the environment and the ecosystem that you live in. It's really cool.
Yeah, so what you're doing is one day the goal is to get a bunch of acreage and just build some different buildings on there for Toehold, for the snake company, breed rodents, and do
Yeah.
the whole sort of thing.
Dude, you're gonna have to let me know when you do that. I want to come out and see this operation. Like, I'd love to have some hands-on experience with this
Next time
because
you're in Vegas, come by and check, come by the house. You'll see the snakes, you'll see the shop, you'll see all that type of stuff. But so with the snakes, it's crazy. So we got this new thing we've been doing, and I'm super fucking frustrated with it right now. So a lot of the snakes, you'll see like a genetic mutation in the snake, right? Like
sure.
everyone knows what an albino is, right?
Yep.
But these are super complex mutations that take place over, does decades and decades and decades, right?
Hmm.
You have to visually be able to identify what's going on with a snake. And sometimes they cross each other out and they do weird things and there's submutations and stuff. So it's really hard to tell, like, God, does this snake contain this more from the mom or does it not? So what we started doing is DNA testing. And we did some DNA testing, and one of the test results came back with like a false positive or whatever it was. And I'm so fucking pissed about it because it's so frustrating. I just want everything, and it's human error. I
Hmm.
just want everything to be perfect. I hate when people don't do their job well, and
Isn't that
that
annoying?
it's the worst. And that
That
sort
is
of
the worst.
segues in to my main business, and my main focus is Toehold, our flip flop company.
Right.
So for years, I wore flip flops all around the world. Grew up in them. Grew up in San Diego, and you'd wear flip flops, and they would break. And I'd be
Yep.
like, "Why do they break? Why do they need to break? Like, why does the part that is so crucial to holding the flip flop together? Why is that the most vulnerable part?" And anyone
Hmm.
who's worn flip flops knows the thong will pull out. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
Some guys are really hardcore into flip flops. Some guys casually wear them to the pool, and some guys don't give a fuck about them, right? I'm the type of guy that gives a fuck about them. I care the most about them more than anybody else on this planet. I care about flip flops because it's what I grew up wearing. And it's what I like to wear the most. And
Yeah.
I hate my foot confined and like in a shoe, right? It's like a foot prison. I hate it. Can't
The
stand it.
foot prison.
So knowing that that's the weakest part, the question has to arise. Well, why is it the weakest part?
Hmm.
And it's simply the weakest part because the way they're making it in China and overseas and every other place they make it, just doesn't matter. Our job isn't to make it well, our job is to make it cheap,
Right.
right? And that's their filter. So I decided that I wanted to make a pair of flip-flops for myself, never wanted to start a company, never wanted to sell them to anybody else. I just wanted to make a pair of flip-flops for myself. They were super durable and could handle all the things I like to do. I'm gonna go to the tropics. I'm gonna hike up a muddy hill in the jungle. I'm gonna go to a waterfall. I'm gonna go down to the beach and get them wet and sandy. I'm
Hmm.
gonna walk across town in them. I'm gonna hunt in them. I'm gonna do all the things that I want to do in them, and I want them to be able to hold up and withstand that. Also, I want them to look super cool too, on top of that. So I decided to set on this personal mission just to create the best flip-flops in the world for myself. And then a guy seen them and another guy seen them and a friend seen them. And then guys start asking for them. I'm like, maybe I'll make you a pair. We'll see. And then I made a guy a pair. Then another guy wants them. This guy's friend wants them. And it started just like that. Never designed as like, dude, here's what we'll do. We'll charge this. We'll do. Never was designed to do that. We didn't even give it. I didn't even give it a name for a long time. Like Toehold just wound up coming along later on.
Right.
But you fast forward, almost 8 years later, and now we have the premier flip-flop company in the world. We hold multiple world records. We make the best, strongest, nicest, most durable, most luxurious flip-flops that exist. Nobody else even comes close to it. Like there's not even a close second place. If you had to compare somebody price-wise, you could bring in a Louis Vuitton, but even they make like one flip-flop a season, right?
Right.
One.
Yeah.
What we do is we do a mixture between making them extremely strong and bringing in the rarest leathers in the world.
Yeah,
So
I've
the
seen that. It's pretty
base
cool.
is so the tread is an American-made Vibram tread. Everyone
Hmm.
knows the brand Vibram, super strong, omnidirectional, slip resistant, good abrasion resistance, great tread. On top of that, we layer a beautiful, thick piece of vegetable tanned leather. What that means is that leather is tanned the ancient way, the way leather has been made for thousands of years. It's tanned in tannins that come from tree bark, roots, soils, leaves, things like that. It's a natural process that preserves the leather. It's very time consuming and very expensive to do. So in the corporate world, everyone switched to like chrome tan, which takes like a day to make. It's a super strong chromium chemical that basically preserves the leather, but does it in a very poor way.
Right.
Vegetable tanning takes 3 months to make one piece of leather, 3 months. And it's made in these old tanneries that are still in existence, dating back to the 1800s, the mid 1800s. So like around the Civil War is where
That's
these.
pretty cool.
So we buy the best stuff that they produce every year. And then out of that piece of leather, we cut just the best section out of that piece of leather. It's strong, it's durable, molds. And if you don't know what vegetable tan leather is, let's back up 150 years or so, or 200 years, and let's go to like the cowboy generation, right?
Hmm.
Your gun holsters, your boots, your saddle, your gun belt, all those types of things are going to be made out of vegetable tanned leather. It comes stiff and it's firm, and it's going to mold and contour to what the end process is. And what's great about that leather is it's antimicrobial, it's really, really strong, and it holds up and it contours. So you'll see things people call leather nowadays. It's really like being lied to, because if we use the example of wood, we know what a beautiful hardwood, we know ironwood, we know oak, white oak, we know all those woods, right?
Hmm.
But then we also know what particle board is. We know what IKEA furniture looks like, or Walmart wooden furniture, just like fragmented board shavings. That's kind of the same scale with leather. So you
Interesting.
imagine the most expensive wood you could find on the planet. That's
Hmm.
what we use with relevance to leather. And then everybody else is using the cheapest particle board. And you're like, well, wait, these are both wood. If you're not an expert and you don't understand what you're looking at, similar to food.
Hmm.
Well, Burger King sells meat, but why is this steak $200 at this premier restaurant? But this is also beef at Burger King.
Right.
Well, you have to understand what you're looking at to know.
Yeah.
And the guy who likes the Burger King meat is not the same type of guy who's going to like the $200 steak in the premier restaurant, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever the situation is. Now let's take that vegetable tan example. Let's go back even further, right? Let's go way back. Let's go back to like Romans. If you've seen a Roman soldier and he had his helmet on, the strap would be made out of vegetable tan leather. His shield would be held on his arm with vegetable tan straps.
Hmm.
His his sword would be wrapped on the handle with vegetable tan. His gay sandals that twist up his ankles, those would be made out of vegetable tan. His fucking belt and then a lot of times the armor, like a lot of the guys had armor that was layers of vegetable tan.
Yeah, actually, I think they just found a surviving Roman soldier sandal in Israel, like that was still flexible and still movable. Like, so what you're talking about, like it literally has lasted over 2,000 years.
It's super strong. It's super strong, super durable, lasts for a very long time. And then let's go all the way back to the Egyptians, right? The Egyptians wore flip-flops, and I call them flip-flops. Sandals, we joke, are what gay Romans wear,
Gay
right?
Romans.
Sandals, something that wraps around your foot. A flip-flop, you just slide your foot into it.
Hmm.
So very close similarities, but a sandal just sounds gay to me. So if we go back to the Egyptians, the pharaohs, they all their stuff they adorned on them was all worn with vegetable tan leather. So it's how humans have worn leather, have worn forever throughout history.
Yep.
It wasn't really until the 70s when Nike came along and they started getting these really like penny pinching miser corporations that's like we can make more money if we use this synthetic material, right? At the
Yeah.
same time, they started fucking with our food. They started taking milk out of like shakes at at McDonald's. They're like, listen, we have this fake powder we could use or the synthetic powder. So the fabrics they use in a Nike costs about $3 to make. Every Nike is about the same, $3. But then you got your Travis Scott Nikes or whoever the guy is, and these are $1,000. These are $600. These Jordans are $400. Guess what? They're still $300. There's nothing about them that cost more money. It's the same sort of synthetic vinyls and fabrics that they have enough of to supply the whole world. There's no shortage of that material. It's all cheap, 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 cheap to make, right?
Yep.
But then they have to do this intrinsic thing where they have to build this fake scarcity. And they say, hey,
Right.
we're only going to make 30, 60, 100 of these. So we're going to charge you a high price. Then you pay a high price for something that's cheap, right? With what we're doing is we're making some of the rarest stuff on earth. So have you ever seen elephant leather before?
No, I haven't.
You've probably seen alligator or crocodile, I would imagine,
Yep.
someplace. So that's more common. You'll see it in a watch strap, maybe a really nice belt, maybe some expensive Italian designer shoes. You might see it. But for the most part, the exotic leathers, humans have never seen them, right?
Right.
Now, if we look at what we consider rare and expensive as a society, if we're like, hey, what do you guys consider expensive? Diamond rings, gold coins, right? Gold jewelry. You'll see fucking diamond rings everywhere, dude. Everybody has a fucking diamond ring. Every chick in the grocery store has a fucking diamond ring on. They're not that rare. And why are diamonds expensive? Because they're rare? They're not. There's fucking hundreds of millions of them, right?
Hmm.
Hundreds of millions of them. Why are they rare? They've put in a fake intrinsic value on them
Right.
to tell you they're expensive, they're rare. They're not. They're not at all, right? But you'll spend tons of money for it. Gold also, there's tons of gold. Gold still costs some money, but it's really not that. It's not rare. It's just expensive because a lot of people want it.
Hmm.
If you use that same filter, a big piece of ethically sourced elephant leather, most humans have never seen it before. If you pulled the earth, it would be in the range like 99% of humans, maybe 0.999 have never
Yeah.
seen it before. It's super rare. And you could get that from us. And you can get a lot of different versions of that from us because we've built relationships with these parks in Africa that when an elephant's hunted, when it dies of natural causes, whatever the situation is, the meat is surrendered to the villagers, and
Mhm.
that hide is taken by the government, tanned and sold. Selling of that hide goes back to park funding and preservation of like wildlife management, things like that. Somebody like me will buy it and then now sell it to our customers. So it's an extremely rare thing. Some of the rarest materials you'll get on this planet, you know?
That's really cool because that's like a really unique product that like people are like I've never seen it. You know what I mean? And
Not
I
only
see it
not
on your store,
seeing
but it's like
it, you
really
like,
cool.
yeah, you'll see pictures of it. Once you see it in person, it's a different thing. And we have tons of crazy leather. So if you're a guy that's not really into flip-flops, we're not for you. We're not for everybody. We're for people that are hardcore flip-flop users, right?
Right.
They want something made in America by a brand that represents America. So everything we do, we have almost this combative attitude towards it, where a lot of companies make things in America, and I'll be like, you fucking cocksuckers, because they're making low quality things in America,
Yeah.
right? And you fucking better stop that.
Yeah.
If we make something and you put that Made in America badge on it, it better be unquestionably the best in the world,
Right.
questionably. And there's brands that are that just pride themselves off of like, hey, it's made in America. It's good enough. Buy it. Fuck you. You can make your product better and you know it. You know you fucking can.
Yes.
So we make stuff the best that could possibly be made. I give zero consideration to the cost. I don't give a fuck
Good.
what the cost is. We don't look at the cost or generate what the cost is until we're done, right?
Yeah.
And our flip-flops, our basic flip-flops start at $595, right?
Hmm.
For most guys, they buy $20 flip-flops. Huge jump, right? For most guys, we're not for you. I can tell you, out of our 595 pairs of flip-flops, we sell, out of all the things we sell those ones the least. The things we sell the most of is our higher end flip-flops, our $1,000, our $2,000, our $3,000 flip-flops.
Right.
Because guys that want them are like, fuck, dude, I could just bump up and get elephant. We sold a pair of of flip-flops the other day called Murder Hippo. It was from a giant hippo in Botswana that grabbed a villager, stuffed its 18-inch fucking teeth through its body, and shook him apart.
That's
Okay.
perfect.
And then
That's
it was
awesome.
shot through the heart. I got the bullet hole on my desk out there. Shot through the heart, tanned, brought over to us through a CITES tag. With the CITES is the import, like the Critical Endangered Species Act.
Yep.
It gives you the right to have it. And then we pieced it up and our customers purchased it. And now you have something on your feet that's killed a human being before.
Hell yeah.
You could find that nowhere
Nowhere
else.
else.
Yeah. Ask Jeff Bezos to go find a pair of those. He's the richest man in the world, or one of those fucking guys is. Go find a pair. Can't. Got to come to us.
Yeah.
But
Dude, that's awesome that you've created such an amazing product. And if I sell enough eggs and honey this year, maybe I'll have to pick up a pair because
I'm trading for some eggs and honey like we're in the 1700s.
see, we need to get back to that, America. We need to start
That's the
trading
trade.
goods and stuff and fighting on
Yeah.
the frontier again.
Like, honey, I brought you some fresh milk and honey.
Yeah, that's right. And I got this pair of flip-flops that
So
I can
with
fight a
these
war in.
flip-flops, so there's a couple things. One is not only are they well made, right? Not only are they made with American pride, all that type of stuff. And not only are they extremely rare, but it's a brand new category that doesn't exist, right? So
Yeah.
you think the modern businessman, and a modern businessman could be just a dude that has his own farm or a guy that has a giant company. How do all the guys we know dress, right? Whether you're just a normal dude or you're a fucking Navy SEAL, all my friends dress the same way. Board shorts, t-shirt, hat, nice watch, and toe-hold flip-flops.
Hell yeah. I saw that with Dan the other day. He was down in Austin. I'm looking down. I'm like, what are you wearing? He's like, toe holds. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. You got a pair. I was like, nice.
Which Dan?
Dan Holloway down in
Oh,
Austin.
fuck yeah. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we did our whole interview with him. I was wearing a fucking blazer and he's wearing his toe hold flip flops. So see, it's just bring him to the boardroom, people. Bring him to the boardroom.
When Rolex were created, like guys didn't wear watches on their wrists. Like it was more of a pocket watch thing. Like a
Right.
bracelet on your wrist was something different. You'll see guys on yachts, dude, rich guys. And we're not like a rich guy thing. We're a normal guy thing. Most of our customer base, even though we start off in jujitsu, most of our customer base is military and hunters. Like
Yeah.
if you
We
hold our,
demand quality.
that's it. That's it, you know? And some guys are like, who pays $1,000 for a pair of flip-flops? I'm like, people
We
who
do.
like, holy, and dude, I got fucking $1,000 flashlight. I got 20 of them. Half of them I can't even find where the fuck they are. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I got $4,000 rifles fucking under my sofa. I can't even find. You know what I mean? Like I buy nice shit. I like nice shit, you know?
It's important buying quality. You know what I mean? Even in the military, like, yeah, you can buy the cheap fucking Chinese fucking Rothko shit, or you can get the equipment that's going to fit you forever and last 20 years. I mean, fuck my Cry plate carriers and my helmets and stuff, my Cry Precision helmets and stuff. Like, yeah, I spent way more money on them, but you want to know what? Like, I demand quality and I demand something that's going to last me 10, 20, years, and I'd rather put the money in it then and buy a bunch of cheap shit.
I feel like most people are like that. So then check this out, okay? So then you got this crazy good product, right? Nobody else in the world makes it. No one else in the world holds a candle to it. We hold the world record. So think about that. We've beaten Hermes Gucci, Fendi, Christian Dior, Prada, Louis Vuitton, all those motherfuckers who make flip-flops, we beat them all by giant margins with the world record, okay? We're working on another world record right now. And then we get so fucking so silly with this shit. We put gold and silver on our flip-flops also, just to be more, because guys, especially our military fucking customers, they want to flex on each other. So like, bro, I got a gold coin on mine. They're like, bro, check this out. I got fucking murder hippo or fuck
Yeah.
I got fucking hammerhead shark straps. Like it's funny the type of shit that they come up with. But we got this great product, okay? No question about it's a great product. But we rest zero accolades on that product, okay? Building the best product in the world is the price of admission. So to us, that's now worth nothing, okay? So what makes us a great company is all of the other stuff that we do, right? The great customer service, the quick communication, the good content, and then our best thing is the thing we get asked about the most is like your warranty. We have zero warranty. Do you know why?
Because you can't even replace or fix what you have because it's such a rare item.
Well, absolutely there's that, but let's say we had a warranty. What a warranty does with a company is it gives that company parameters on how they're going to treat you,
Right.
right? Sorry, you're outside of warranty. You're out of warranty. I can't do it. That's not covered under warranty. We don't have any of that sort of shit, right? If we put on our warranty that, well, let me ask you this. If your dog got your flip-flops and chewed them up, should we cover that or not?
No,
Why not?
because I'm the asshole that let my dog chew my $1,000 flip-flops.
Exactly. But guess what? If you message me and said, AG, fuck, dude, my dog chewed up my flip-flops, you know what I'm going to tell you? Shoot them over to me. Let me look at them. Let me see if there's anything we could do. And then I'll tell you, I'll let you know what it's going to cost, right?
Yeah.
And then you send them over to me. We always fix them for free, even though it's your fuck up. And we know what happened. We know exactly what took place. You put them on the floor and your dog walked over to them and said, holy shit, this is the first time in my life I've ever seen real leather before.
Yeah.
Because everything else you brought in was chrome tan with harsh chemicals. It's not real leather.
Hmm.
So this is your first time your dog has seen real leather. So he gives it a sniff, he gives it a bite. The more he tastes it and the wetter it gets, the more those rich tannins start to come out of it. The more he's like, dude, I can't stop fucking chewing this shit, right? So we fix them, we send them back to you. If it was under warranty, the answer would be no. Also, if we listed, we will fix them if your dog chews it. Guess what? Any asshole who wants a fucking new pair of straps is going to let his dog chew them and ship them back in and try to finger fuck the system, right?
Right. That's why
So we're
REI got rid of the warranty system was because people were finger fucking the system the whole time.
who did?
REI, so
Oh,
recreational
REI,
equipment,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Yeah, people were like
People
literally,
were bringing shoes and they were worn out. They're like, I don't like these.
yeah, oh yeah, these things didn't work. My ship broke, and they have to get a whole new system. So they're like
Yeah.
bankrupting the
Always
company.
some asshole fucking the whole thing up. So the things that aren't covered, if you drag your feet and you flip your flip-flop over and one side's worn out and the other side's perfect, that's just you dragging your feet. Stop dragging your feet. Don't be a fucking Neanderthal. If you
Yeah,
buy a brand new set of Michelin tires and you're burning them out and skidding, even tires won't hold up to skidding across the ground. So I have a pair of flip-flops that's lasted me 7 years. Okay. We've had flip-flops out there that have been worn every single day for years and years and years, and are still going strong. What you'll start to do is on the surface where your foot rubs, you'll create this rich, beautiful patina. And that's really what you want. It's kind of like a pair of Levi's. We all know like a nice pair of brand new Levi's, they look cool. But a pair of Levi's have been broken in for a couple of years. You got the wear marks on the knees and you got some cool like scuff marks on them. They're way more desired. That's why they've started creating stone-washed Levi's back in the day because guys wanted them already pre-broken in. So once you break in a beautiful pair of Toehold flip-flops, to me, they're the most gorgeous thing ever. Ever, ever, ever. And then guys will wear them 4 or 5 years and they'll be like, hey, you know what? I seen you posted some brand new OD green crocodile straps or elephant straps or blue Arctic fucking stingray straps. Can I send them back in and upgrade my straps? Fuck yeah, you can. And we could swap them out. Then if you do have a problem, something breaks, guess what? No other company in the world can fix your flip-flops.
Also true.
Call up Reef. Reef doesn't make flip-flops. Reef reaches out to a Chinese manufacturer every year and they say, hey, what do you guys got in production? They're like, here's our line. And they'll be like, we'll take 5,000 of those, 3,000 of those. And then they just get shipped over. They don't make anything. Rainbow, very popular brand. Love those guys. Those guys were really instrumental in us getting our start. We picked their brains a lot. They kind of gave us some direction. They make a little bit of their stuff in San Clemente by hand, but the bulk of their stuff's made in China. But the stuff they make in San Clemente is all made with Chinese materials and fabrics. So
Right.
all of our stuff is American made, except the exotic leathers come over from Africa or from Asia, because that's where those animals live,
Right.
right? So nobody else does anything close to what we do. And the precision, the goal is always to make the best possible product ever. And then the customer service side, right? So if you own a business, any business you own, you don't understand how much your customer service experience is based off of your speed. All right. So let's say, for example, you sold something. Let's say you sold food, right? I ordered DoorDash. If DoorDash got here in 10 minutes, I'm happy. If DoorDash got here in 2 months, what do you think my response would be?
Yeah. Like what the fuck?
It'd just be what, but it still got here.
Yep.
It's still warm, and everything else was exactly the same. But what changed? The timeline. It's a dramatically different experience. So if you have a knife company, if you have a flashlight company, if you have an ammo company, any company you have, these CEOs, I don't fucking get them. They're like, I'm only going to talk to my customers from 9 to 5, and on weekends, don't talk to us, right? We'll
Mhm.
respond to you, whatever the fuck it is. You can message us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even on Christmas Day, and you'll get a response almost right away.
That's awesome. I mean, that's very rare.
Because a couple things. One is if I'm advertising to you about our product, I better be there to pick up the fucking phone when you're ready, right? Also, you may just have a question and I answer that question, and then you're like, all right, cool, I'll take 10 of those. Happens all the time. Happens
Yeah.
all the time. Plus, I'm single. I got a girlfriend, beautiful fucking girlfriend, super hot, smoke show, of course. Gotta have that, right?
Yeah,
Gotta
absolutely.
have that.
No other standard is acceptable.
But I don't have kids. I'm blessed to make a lot of money and I got discretionary income. If I'm your customer, I'm your dream fucking customer. Because I'll ask you a few questions and I'll just buy whatever the fuck I want from you. And then price doesn't matter,
Hmm.
right? Doesn't matter. If I'm supposed to spend 3 grand, 7 grand with you, $500, whatever it is, doesn't fucking matter. I don't have to ask nobody. I don't need to do anything. You would not believe how many companies fuck up having me as a customer. And I'm
Yeah.
one of millions of guys that are out there. All I want to do is I may have a question or two, and I'm sitting here right here holding my credit card, and I'm about to dial it in. I shoot you a message, and you get back to me 4 or 5 days later. I'm holding my credit card in my hand, ready to buy your product, right?
Hmm.
And guess who contacts me? Probably your shitty intern or somebody in your company that doesn't give a fuck that you pay $10 an hour to. And that customer contact is just, it's abrasive, it's non-informative, or it's slow. I'm no longer interested, right? Then you get that CEO and you interview that CEO and you're like, how's business? He's like, ah, things are kind of slow right now. Weird. Why are things slow? Why are they slow? Is
Because
it
you're
you have
not
an
meeting their
inability to
needs.
capture the revenue that exists? It's almost like having a fishing net, right? Let's talk about business for a second. Advertising is trying to put a net out there to capture customers in a nice way, to capture them to your product, right? So
Hmm.
you're fishing, a fish hits your net and you refuse to check your net except what? Every few days, right?
Yeah, not
Or
smart.
let's say your preferred way of communication is emails. If you prefer to communicate during email, fucking shame on you. It's 2025. And I'll say it right now, you're a fucking idiot for letting email be your primary means of communication. Because
Yeah.
I can't send you video, I can't send you voicemail, and maybe I can send you one or two small pictures over fucking email, right? So I land in your net as a fish, right? But you don't check this net you check this other net because these emails were from the day before and these emails were from the day before. And you don't check your fucking net constantly. You should be checking. If you have emails, you better be checking that motherfucker every 30 minutes,
Right.
around the clock, right? And on the weekends, those messages better get fucking answered. And if I message you Friday afternoon and you don't get back to me until Monday or Tuesday, you've lost all the ability to sell me anything.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
because I love your product, but I won't support you because you don't have the intellect to know that you're being ineffective at communicating with your fucking customers.
That's
Like it's
good.
a weird way. So let me paint you another scenario. So you have a brand you like, right?
Hmm.
You message that brand on Christmas Day. You email them. Christmas, we know people are off the week before Christmas, sometimes the week after Christmas. The likelihood of somebody getting back to you if you email them on Christmas, it's probably, if we had to guess, I would guess, let me guess for you. You would probably guess they would get back to you a couple days after the first of the year, right?
Yep.
Probably.
Yep.
We get back to our customers within 90 seconds on Christmas.
That's awesome.
Do
That's
you
like
know why?
non-existent.
Do you know why?
No.
Because I already know what the experience is like. I know you either opened up your brand new gift and you're excited about it and you have questions, or you opened up a gift card for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 and you want to buy something, you want to know what's available, right?
Right.
Or you want to know how to break them in, or whatever question you have, it's going to be based off of something excitement based or something that you probably want to know the answer to right then and there.
Hmm.
On Christmas Day, my phone will ping. My phone fucking pings constantly. We get thousands of messages a day. The only thing that'll like ping if my phone's silent, like right now, if my phone pings, it's going to be the work email, right? It's going to be like the customer service email. And it's always like that. So if you message me, we respond right away. We almost use it like a text message. And we respond so quick on Christmas that most people think it's an auto message, like it's auto-generated message. And we'll be like, hey, thank you for your message. Here's exactly what you do, or here's what your flip-flops are, or whatever the situation is. And they're fucking blown away. Most of the time, they won't even check the message right away because they're not expecting one back.
Yeah.
But what'll happen is it takes that customer's excitement and it cements it, right?
Yeah.
It cements it and they're like, holy shit. And then if they have any question, hey, I got these for my wife. Fuck, I forgot. What are they made out of? Oh, bro, those are Himalayan crocodile. The base is vegetable tan leather. On top, you got her a pink stingray. Dude, thank you so much. Right?
Yeah.
How do I care for them? Should I put something on them? I got them wet. What should I do? All that's dealt with right away. So then what happens is that customer has a concern and that concern is answered right away, right? Where if you leave that concern for a week, the customer will build anxiety. They'll start to wonder, they'll question, they'll start asking their friends, nah, man, I haven't heard back from them. No, I know. I need a, and guess what happens? You kill the customer experience, right?
Yeah.
So not only do we produce the best product because we're made in America, but we also provide the best experience because we're an American company. And we have to set the standard for everybody else. You could take one of our flip-flops and you can mail it to any other country in the world. You can give it to their best leather workers. And those guys can look at it and they can say, the best they can say is, I think we could duplicate this. They can't say they can make it better because they can't. But they say that they think they might be able to duplicate it. And that's the standard we always want. Nobody on this planet should be able to make the product better than we can make it. And if you're not using those filters, if you're not communicating with your customers in real time, and if your best people at the company are not communicating with your customers, right? You build a company, you build a gun company, you're building lowers, you're doing whatever the fuck you do,
Hmm.
and you got an intern talking to your customers, say goodbye to your business.
No,
You've
I
you've
completely
already
agree with you.
you've already failed at your fucking business. The most important resource besides your team and the internal components is your customer base. And the person who contacts their customer should be your best person. So most of the time when you message our company, you're going to get me or a staff member or my assistant who's going to be standing right next to me. And she's going to be like, hey, Doug said this. And I'll be like, tell Doug that. So typing for me, but talking to me, right?
Yeah.
Never letting them make the decision on what to say to the customer. Because if they miss the nuance, you kill that customer experience. So those are like the details that we do that make our company stand out. And what makes it grow so fast and what makes so many people be like, dude, this is the best company I've ever seen. It's crazy to me, having worked for Apple and all these other companies, when a person tells me, we get it dozens of times a day. Like once in a while, you're like, your mom will tell you you have the best customer service. But when people who own huge companies tell you you have the best customer service they've ever seen, they want to model their business off you. They want to model what they do off you. Or students are writing like business page or their business proposals or their business like plans based off of what we do. You know you're doing it right, but we can always analyze it and do it better.
No, for sure. And I'm actually one thing I'm disappointed that I haven't seen on your market line is that your pedophile flip-flops. It should have been the guy's face. You should have peeled it off and vegetable tanned his face, and then turned him into a pair of flip-flops. And then, those are priceless. Those are once in a lifetime, people. Once in a life. If any volunteers, pedophiles in those California prisons want to volunteer their face for Toehold to make some flip-flops, I'm sure we can make that happen.
We've done quite a few lines of the pedophile. We did like a wood chipper one. We did
Yeah.
tied to the tree with the arrows being shot into him. We got the one of them hanging in the tree by the rope.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of really, really funny ones.
That's good. Yeah, AG, you've lived an amazing life. From prison to Apple to LA Fitness to serving your country and helping our guys get home safe, and then developing an amazing company with an extremely unique business model that I think as we bring back American business here under the Trump administration, I hope they follow your lead and really start listening to this podcast and how to run their businesses, because you are an exemplary American and you're bringing great things to this country and you're making an amazing product. And I just want to
Thank you.
appreciate your time and for coming on the show today. It's been amazing.
That's an honor to hear that. If you guys like hot chicks and huge tits, go to our Instagram.
I agree.
If you
I
want
did
to
that
see
this
our
morning.
flip-flops, you're going to see them on our website. If you want to see hot chicks, go to our Instagram.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, Toehold actually followed me on Instagram. I feel like a somebody now. And then I was like, God damn. I was just like looking at all this. I'm like, this is really cool.
The
Yeah,
amount of people that told me you're never going to grow your brand using hot chicks, it's so
lies.
stupid, bro.
So such lies.
So stupid.
Yeah. Hey man, next time I get out to Vegas, we definitely got to meet up and hang out. I'll bring you some stuff from the bees. At least I can
Wow,
contribute
let's go get
to.
a steak.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you're ever in Colorado, if you ever want to come out here and talk to my guys too, I'm sure they love to hear some of your business acumen as well. So
Absolutely. If you guys want to look us up, on Instagram, it's at TOE_HOLD. We're super pro-Republican. We don't sell to liberals
hell yeah.
and super shadow banned. So if you type in our Instagram, you don't find us, find somebody who follows us and then go to their page and track us down, because we're kind of hard to find from all that type of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel the pain. I got shadow banned for like 2 years with going after the DOD.
Oh,
So
also, so we're a premium company. We sell high-end stuff. It never costs us less money to make our products, right? A
yeah,
lot of these companies are wholesalers. They buy it from China, they put their label on it, and they give it to you on sale. We don't do sales, but we do military, law enforcement, and fire discounts. So
awesome.
if you're in the military, shoot me a DM on Instagram, send me a copy of your ID, DD-214s, picture of you in uniform, like a list of common fucking STDs in the Philippines,
Yeah, hanging out at the local strip club.
something that proves you're in the military, and we'll give you a special code. And we only do that because if you're in the military, if you were in law enforcement, if you were in fire, you're willing to die for us. The least we could do is give you a little something back.
Awesome. That's great, guys. So make sure you guys go follow Toehold on Instagram. Get a hold of your pair of Toehold flip flops, because I know I'm going to once I sell off a few more things. But hey, thanks for coming on the show, AG. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's awesome, and I'm glad to be able to connect with you and work with you in the future here.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks again.